Hello, friends, and welcome to an Unexpected Podcast. I'm Ez.
And I'm Lane.
And we're talking Tolkien.
We're coming to you from the Shire of America, Ohio, in the beautiful village of Amanda.
Yeah. And as we always do, Lane, we start with some quick counsel.
Yes.
Right?
Let's get it out quick.
So whoa. We are getting it out there quick.
Yeah.
What's happening? What's going on with you?
I was going to ask you the same thing. Darndest thing.
So you weren't ready for this section either?
Oh, I just want you to go first.
Okay. Well, let's see. With me, back to school. Last time I spoke to everyone, I had a snow day.
Yeah.
And I had a few more.
You survived snowpocalypse.
Just to rub it in. Yeah, I did. Actually, there was a name for that storm that came through here. Do you remember?
Yeah, a cloud bomb or something
Something
cloud
like,
mirror vodka.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was called.
No idea.
Something like that.
No, but just a couple more snow days there, and we're back to school.
School's going good?
It's going well. Yeah, and honestly, I've just been doing a lot of reading.
Yeah.
I'm being dead serious. Like, I don't think much has happened in my life at all.
Well, maybe not externally, but there's a lot going internally, right? You're reading, you're venturing to other worlds, man.
That's right.
And this is honestly, this is like the best winter we've had in a while for getting stuck in a book.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I mean, the last 4 years, our winters have been like we've been down in Florida, pretty much.
Yeah, true.
So you're hanging out outside. Yeah, I grilled out all last winter. In February, I was out in the backyard grilling out.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember last couple winters. It was. I like the idea of like snow and.
I love snow too.
Well, can I finish here? This is like I like snow. Okay. I like you said.
I was helping you out
to be curled up.
I like snow
next to the window.
Yes.
Chilling out.
Reading a
book. And that's been what we've been doing. So, I've actually, to be so everyone knows, I know we're doing quick counsel here, but I've been reading the Unfinished Tales and trying to dive into more of that and just get
here again with
back into
not to cut you off, but with your scope. You're not just reading what we're reading. You're out there. You're
seeing the big picture.
You're diving deep, baby. You're deep in talk, as we'll talk about later.
I just like it. I don't know. I like to get really immersed in it, and it's like there's a lot of names and references to first and second age and stuff. It's like wow,
it's heavy.
So
we're all here together that'll walk through this.
Yeah,
it's a heavy process.
So what's up? I mean,
I didn't think you were going to ask for a second. Thought you were just going to move on. We're going to be dropping some eaves. I honestly thought you weren't going to ask me.
No, I'm asking you right now. Are you doing okay?
I am. Yeah, I am. I'm doing great, actually. Here, can I tell you what's going on?
Yeah, go ahead. Oh,
you're not going to step on my toes.
I'll let you.
Go ahead, bud. So when this airs, I think, because we record these ahead of time, obviously. When this airs, I will be getting ready to go back to school. I'm still on paternity leave right now, okay? Right. And it's not going to be easy. I anticipate a lot of depression. I'm not even joking. I was telling Sarah this today. I was like, if I could just stay at home, quit my job, quit my hobbies,
right,
throw it all out the window, and just like stay with my daughter all day long, every day, I don't think I'd miss anything, honestly. I'd love it. I love every second of it. She's just she's perfect. She's perfect. So now, is that the right thing to do? Absolutely not. Because then your kid grows up and you're a boring parent, right? You got no passions. You got you didn't do anything for 18 years.
I watched you grow.
Right. Yeah. You were my chia pet. I watched you grow.
I get that though. I mean, she is gorgeous. By the way, I came in today, her eyes were open and she's just
She got her first look at Uncle Ez.
Man, yeah. I was one of the first times I've really seen her like wide-eyed.
No, and her eyes are so beautiful, and she's just developing this personality, and like getting to be home with my wife Sarah and my dog Arwen. It's hard to beat. So and I still have I don't go back until Wednesday after next. I've taken sick time because that's what you have to do when you're a teacher, because you don't get paternity leave, so you take sick time, which is cool. We get summers off. I'm not complaining. I think it's a great thing.
Oh yeah, for sure.
We also get paid for summers off too. We only get paid for 9 months if you think about it.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm not complaining.
I'm not either.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just already looming there. Like I'm gonna have to go back. But yeah. But I'm trying to enjoy every second of it, as.
I think you are though. I mean, and I'm actually really proud of you, because I am glad that you took the time that you're taking, honestly, because I think it is really important, And I wish
it is.
more
Everyone
people, our culture and society should, the focus should be there. You should be home here.
that should be available for everyone.
Yeah.
And if you have to just take, I don't know, time with like minimal pay or whatever, your job should never be like on the table if you're or on the chopping block if you're staying home to
when you're blessed. I mean, that's the other thing too. I have to say too, as a teacher, we are blessed in just that you're able to do that and things, because some people can't.
And that's who I think about. I think about those people.
Right.
It's not fair at all.
Yeah, it's a basically that's like it needs to be a priority.
Yeah.
In our country and society. So
I agree.
Anyways, I'm with you, man.
Well, yeah,
awesome. Okay. By the way, guys, I think Lane's got some cameras set up here today, so I think that's put a little pressure on us here. I feel like
Are you sweating?
I feel like I'm under the. Yeah, I'm pitting out over here,
it's
man.
It's the candles, I think. It's the heat from Orogeruin.
Oh, so this is good. So that's a reminder, though, that we have a YouTube channel, just in case you wanted to check it out and hop on there. Well, we'll try to record a couple of these here and there.
And I think it's we recorded the first episode, actually, many meetings.
We did,
but it just didn't work out.
My bad.
He did his best. Ez did his best. He did a really good job.
It took me 5 hours just to get the audio set up, and then he wanted visual too.
Well, I just like the idea of people obviously for people to be able to, like what you do with Rebel Watch. People can, you and Mike do with Rebel Watch. You can listen to it, and then you can watch it. You can do both. You can do one or the other, whichever one you like. And so I like that idea too. And I was hoping that we could be able to do that. So taking a crack at it, and
absolutely.
We'll see how it turns out. And you can let us know what you think too. And
yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Or maybe don't. I guess as says, don't give us your opinion.
No, I always want to hear what people think. Okay, as long as it's good.
Okay, right. 5 stars only.
5 stars. No, I'm just kidding.
1 star goes in the trash.
But something real quick before we jump into. Normally we jump right into dropping eaves. We just want to let everyone know that the Bywater Post is snowed under.
Snowed under.
I mean,
it's snowing letters and raining stamps.
Yeah. It's unreal. So stay tuned at the end of this podcast just to kind of hear that. We've got some shout outs for you guys and some real good stuff that came through. And honestly, we're blessed. That's all.
Oh, dude.
It's just,
it's worth looking at the camera and just saying, thank you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll get into that more later, but we just feel very...
had to mention it in the beginning just because it means so much to us. It's excited to see that people are in this club and in this community, and they want to read with us. And okay, after chapter 1, we had people making some extra connections and to the text and basically filling up the corners for us.
Yeah,
which was great too, because there's just so much you can't... We're not going to reread the chapter. We're trying to. These are our takeaways.
Right.
You also have takeaways, and we want to hear those.
Right.
So.
And I'm just like, and that's the thing too. Is damn it, it already feels like a book club.
Yeah.
I didn't, and I get maybe I underestimated the whole process. I didn't think it would happen this quickly, but it already feels like, I can think of 10 people off the top of my head who've commented and who've shared their takeaways from the story, and that it just it gives us a whole new perspective. It fuels us up for how excited we were already excited before. Obviously, that's
if you can't tell that we were amped when we started this podcast. Yeah. We jumped into it, and I was just like, we're going.
It's taken it to another level, hasn't it? It makes you that much more motivated. It makes you feel like, hey, we're all in this together. We're doing this for a reason. Right. We're part of a real community.
Do you know what? Very exciting. We'll mention this more in Bywater Post, but what blew me away too is you have people from all different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And also all different backgrounds in Middle Earth. So you've got people who have been reading this since the 70s, and you've got people who are just doing their first read now.
Yeah.
It's unreal. So
it's awesome.
it's really cool. So just had to say
yes.
Thanks, and stay tuned at the end here, and we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
All right. Next we have Dropping Eves, Amazon show news.
Yeah, we're going to be dropping some Eves. There's some new news there, not tons, but I did a little digging and found a few more details for us concerning the Amazon show. Okay, so there's still no writers, producers, directors, no actors. I think what they're going to do, obviously, is they're taking their time. They want to make sure that they get this right.
Good.
Just from the announcement on, there's immense pressure, right? Not only just because you're following up a beloved 2 set of trilogies, but you're up against Game of Thrones, which is a similar genre, obviously same genre, similar category, style of show, I'm sure. and just a lot of other great TV out there. So they're going to make sure that they take their time on this. With that announcement being recent, they're going to make sure they get these leaders and the acting talent lined up. So nothing there. No leaks, nothing that I've come across. Matt Galser, he's a rep for the Tolkien estate, and he's in the trust. And HarperCollins said in a statement to the New York Times that the TV adaptation will explore previously unexplored stories based on Tolkien's writings. So again, pretty vague, right? Yeah. Previously unexplored. So we're getting this whole message that it's going to be the 60 years between the end of the Hobbit adventure and the beginning of Lord of the Rings.
I just don't know. I mean, here's the thing. Real quick.
I don't know either.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you have like a 12-volume history of Middle-earth, and it's like, I think it's like, whoa, gosh, don't quote me right now. It's book 8 or 9, somewhere in there. Like it's like is where you get into the Middle-earth history around that period that you're talking about, that 60 years.
Yeah.
Like there are probably 6 books before all of that. I mean, there's just, so if we're basing this on his writings, that could be anything.
See, I think that it's vague, but it doesn't discount what we've heard before, because that 60 years is untouched pretty much.
Yeah.
But it makes it even more open-ended. It could be anything.
It could be anything. It could honestly, you could take the things that happen in the Silmarillion and kind of like maybe, I don't know, like you could almost introduce different, not maybe not Silmarillion, but just like a new character or like a side quest or something that's happening alongside of what so it's based on his writings, but it's a side quest.
Yeah, parallel story that's created also it could be inspired by his writings. It doesn't say it has to be, exact stories from what he's written. So that's pretty cool. It, again, doesn't give us a lot of information, which is cool. I'm okay with that mystery. I'm okay with not knowing. We want to be able to speculate, right? We want to base entire shows around speculation. So that's good for us. We'll take that.
That's right.
So yeah, but I guess they're also saying in the same hand, it's going to focus on the events leading up to Bilbo leaving the ring with Frodo. Okay. But it said it could be also possibly be focusing in on the Silmarillion. Okay. Right. So I think they're trying to keep us on our toes. Obviously, if you haven't picked up on that message yet, I think that's what they're trying to do, because I just made that connection.
I know you have a couple more things to go over here too, but if anyone else also has heard something, or if there's an article, let us know.
We've got spies out there, right? We've got insiders out there.
Yeah, we do.
They're wandering through the Shire trying to find information.
We got a couple strangers from Mickle Delving in different places that are
some wanderers.
They're there for a reason.
That's right, man.
Okay.
So Game of Thrones is planning prequels, right? So this show is going to have to captivate and be able to compete too. More Game of Thrones is happening. I don't know as much about Game of Thrones, mostly, and I know that might be shocking, right? Because we're Lord of the Rings guys. You're into it. I'm not into it because it's a fad right now. When it's been out for 10 years, I'll start watching it, but it's just hard for me to get into right now.
That's okay. That's fair.
When everyone likes something, I tend not to.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's my personality.
No, that's actually totally fine. That was actually how Harry Potter was for a lot of people. When it was real fatty, they were kind of like, I'm just not really there.
Yep.
So one thing I'll say about the Game of Thrones prequels, though, I hope that what they do is we have like Game of Thrones in like spring to summer, and then we find a good season, like a good fall season, to launch into Lord of the Rings.
Right. So they're not competing.
Well, that way, yeah. I mean, that way it's like I'm going to subscribe to HBO Go or HBO Now, and then I'm going to hop over and get my Prime account going. So, I mean, that's what I would do.
And they should plan it around them.
So,
I mean, then that would be Amazon's move, right? I mean, I don't think HBO is going to move. They're going to do whenever they want to do it because they have that market pinned down. Yeah. So I think, you're right. Amazon should plan it around. That's a great point there. And then I did want to clarify on John Rhys Davies' comments from the previous show that we shared. He called the Lord of the Rings show a disgrace, not a travesty. So I didn't want to misspeak, because I know John listens in his time zone, and I didn't want to upset John. Sir John Rhys Davies. I don't know if is he a sir? I don't think he's been knighted. We're gonna knight him right now. Okay. Sir John Rhys Davies.
Good.
So I didn't want to misspeak there, and I understand where he's coming from. I don't agree with the attitude towards the show, but I understand, I guess, what he's saying. He's trying to protect the legacy of Lord of the Rings. But I think that, man, I don't know. I'm hopeful for this show. I think it's going to be awesome.
Me as well.
So,
yep.
Yeah. So we talked about what we think is, I don't know. I mean, what do you think is likely with this show? I think, here's what I think, guys. They got to start safe.
Yeah.
They can't take too many risks to begin. I think if they start safe and they hook loyal fans, fans of the book, and then people who are just fans of the genre, then when they have success with that, then they can do spin-off series. They could bring me my dramedy in the Shire, which I'm longing for. They could do a Second Age with Sauron. That would actually be, it'd be a great sitcom.
Yeah.
Second Age with Sauron.
Yeah, it would be.
Just gotta come home, put his backpack on the counter.
Yeah.
I don't know, Deej.
You know, here's something. So something risky would be like, let's say they create. I don't think they would do this. Would they create a new? This would be risky, and I wouldn't do it. But like creating a new setting or something like a suburb of a town or something near what we know. Just put me somewhere where I've heard this referenced in Tolkien's work, and then I'll kind of believe it. You know what I mean? Like
work in new stuff or new areas slowly, new stories slowly.
Yeah, start somewhere familiar. Something that we know and recognize, and then because we have a lot of literature that kind of we can refer back to and sort of say this is how it was described and this is how it should look.
Yeah,
and then it's believable. And then from there, if you want to kind of go out on the limb or whatever, that's fine. So
save the risks, put them in your back pocket, kind of a thing. I agree with you totally. So we do have some cool news from the Tolkien biopic. It's, like we said, tentatively right now being just called Tolkien. Production photos are on IMDb, so you can see Edith and Tolkien. There's I think like four pictures. A couple of them, he's in his military garb and they're walking together out in a field kind of deal. And then the other one, they're in a city. It looks like, I'm guessing it might be Oxford, and he's in civilian attire. And he's holding Edith's like overcoat. She's in this beautiful dress and a coat.
That's awesome.
And like in one picture and the next one, he's holding it. It looks beautiful. From I mean, just the costumes will be fantastic.
Right.
Can't really tell much from those shots of what the film will look like, but I'm guessing it's gonna be beautiful. Other exciting news too is that before we didn't know exactly where it was in production, but shooting has wrapped. So that's pretty cool. So they're moving into post-production. So I'm guessing, I mean, I'm feeling 2018 release. They haven't put a release date, but I'm guessing if they could, there probably won't be tons of special effects in a movie like that.
Right.
Maybe second, or I don't know, maybe third quarter of 2018. Let's put a guess out there about then, and we can start getting ready for that one.
Man, that'd be awesome.
Yeah,
really
cool.
Cool.
I know. I can't wait for that.
Because I feel like 2018 is kind of empty for me. I'm really like not empty, but I'm just sort of like, especially after the summer, I'm like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do?
Yeah, and this would be a good like Thanksgiving weekend movie. It'd be great.
Absolutely.
So no other breaking news there, but we'll continue to keep one eye on this production and update you with progress.
Nice.
But that's exciting. It's cool to know that that's wrapped up.
All right, awesome. All right, now we're going to move on to some dates in Middle-earth, and we're going to kind of take you through, I think our last episode was on the 14th, so now we have January 15th through the 23rd.
Yeah.
Elaine, take us through these.
You want to go? Let's do every other. I'll read the 15th, you the 16th. We'll go back and forth.
Okay.
Does that sound cool?
Pronounce these.
I like hearing your voice. You'll be fine.
Okay, cool.
So on January 15th, the Fellowship's at the Bridge of Khazad-dûm, and they reach Nimrodel at night.
Yep.
Okay.
We're not gonna elaborate on these. We're just gonna give the dates
coming up,
because some of this too is like, it's coming up, and we don't want to get into that too much.
Right.
So January 16th, the Fellowship makes its way through Lothlorien.
January 17th, the Fellowship makes its way to Caris Galadan.
Okay.
Caris Galadan by night.
Yep. And January 2nd, the Fellowship rests in Lothlorien.
Yep. And then there's a spoiler for January 23rd. I don't think we're going to share that one. That's a big,
let's not.
That's a big story.
Yeah.
Point. Yeah.
But if you know what happened on January 23rd, then there you go.
Yeah. Good for you. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Someone's got their calendar. They wake up every day, they got their Middle Earth
Today in Middle Earth.
Yeah.
That'd actually be a pretty good calendar idea.
Yeah, it would be kind of cool.
Might need to put that together.
All right, here we go. I mean, this is it. This is what
we've been. I mean, I think I'm kind of nervous because this is a big chapter.
I know.
big chapter, and there's just so much to talk about in this.
Right.
I feel like, and there's all this play on the word shadow, right?
Right. That's true.
And I almost feel like by the end of this chapter, you're told all this backstory, and you're told all of these roots of what's going on in the present. And even though you're more enlightened leaving this chapter, it's almost like there's more mystery. And there's more, like, we don't feel any better knowing, we almost feel worse knowing what's lurking in the shadows.
Right, right. I mean, we get some, so it's like some questions are answered. We learn more, right?
Yep.
But then we actually, what we learn is,
it's very unsettling.
Right. Before I forget this.
Yes.
Because I didn't put it in our notes in here anywhere. And what I thought about with this whole chapter is the idea that what Gandalf does and just what we learn in this chapter fills in the white spaces on the outside of the map, right? I mean,
that's beautiful.
Because Frodo and like when they're looking for through the maps, it's like those are the white spaces, right? And I mean that's what this does. But then also once it fills it in, it's scary,
right? And that's the
we shouldn't have filled those in.
And it's the dual nature of Frodo, right?
Right.
And we see him go back and forth, like, hey, I want to go on this adventure, not yet. Not that time.
Right.
It's always in the fall. In the fall, he gets this deep desire every year to go out and follow old Bilbo on an adventure, and then it dies down, and he's fine with being in the Shire because it's a beautiful place to be, and he feels content, and it's not his time yet. Right. So yeah, it's this crazy, like, it's a tug of war, bro. It's back and forth. Oh my gosh! All right, so good. So good. Yeah.
Okay, so what we're about to dive into, we're gonna do a recap and a summary. Quick plug here, though, if you would like to write the recap or the summary for our show, you're more than welcome to do that. Head on over to patreon.com/uptalkingtolkien and plug away in there, and we're going to divide these up to different people who would like to send us just a recap. And if it's funny, cool. If it's just straightforward, that's awesome. But
you're a brilliant man, Ezra. So that's beautiful.
Well, I just like I said before, I like people who are in the book club to feel like they can hop into the show and like, wow, cool. There's my recap.
Yep.
So
absolutely.
And plus, it's like hopefully they can this recap.
It's delicious.
Have fun.
It's delicious. So our good friend Mr. Bilbo Baggins has just celebrated his 111th birthday. You'll remember that from the previous chapter. He's grown restless and is getting ready for another adventure. Before leaving on this adventure, Gandalf persuades Bilbo to leave the ring with a lot of difficulty.
Right.
Yep. He's leaving it for his nephew, Frodo Baggins. Frodo is instructed to keep it secret and keep it safe.
Yeah, he is.
By a very wise wizard, who then promptly disappears.
Right, he does.
Yeah,
I know.
As he does best.
It's great.
Right? So
what's weird is like he brings this like, he brings like this sense of like security, right? But then...
Yeah.
And then,
but at the same time, he's like, danger always is kind of, I mean, there's...
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Yep.
It's, again, it's whole
you feel
nature
safe,
of that,
but and dangerous around him too.
Gives him, so all right, here we go. Our summary for Chapter 2, The Shadow of the Past. Frodo is now the master at Bag End.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And the gossip about Bilbo's disappearance continues in the Shire.
Yeah. Only grows.
It does grow.
It only grows.
Right.
Like what Gandalf was hoping for doesn't happen so much.
Right, exactly.
It doesn't die down. Nope.
No, not at all. What did he say? It was like...
not in 9 days or 99 or something like... It was...
Right, but it had been a year and a day.
Yeah. You know? That's right. That's right, dude.
Yeah. So the legend of Mad Baggins is born. All right. More rumors of queer folk, dragons, and strange happenings are discussed at the Green Dragon. Right, which that's a whole the parallels. We're gonna get into the Ivy Bush Green Dragon parallels.
Yeah.
Just
even the characters,
right? Absolutely,
and having this dialogue. Yep.
Mm-hmm. At the same time, Gandalf reappears in the Shire to visit Frodo. They discuss Bilbo's finding of the ring, and Gandalf gives a little history lesson on the Great Rings, which is really cool. So. Alrighty, there's your summary. Now let's dive into the details and fill up
those corners.
The corners.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Take us away, Lane.
All right. So the first section we broke this into 4 sections. The first one is pages 41 through 45. It's at the Green Dragon and in the meantime. Our second section is called, we have so much stuff.
I know
here.
We have so many notes.
From page 45 to 51, it kind of goes into a different element. We're deep in talk and the history of the ring. And then we have. Sorry, let me get this here. And then pages 60 to 63, it's an adventure of a different kind. Okay, and that's sort of where we end. We've got three sections for this chapter, 3 main chunks that we broke it up into. Mm-hmm. So, at the Green Dragon, and in the meantime, like I said, the fireside legend of Mad Baggins builds and isn't forgotten as hoped for. Bilbo's, the rumors are that he's undoubtedly fallen into a pool or a river. And come to a tragic but hardly an untimely end.
Right.
And it's all Gandalf's fault, of course. Poor Gandalf.
Absolutely. He's a disturbance.
Yes. And on a side note, I feel like it's probably, I guess, like a parent and a teenage child that hates him. He loves hobbits more than anything. He sticks up for hobbits. If the hobbits knew what he did to keep them safe, setting those watchers on the border of the Shire.
Oh my gosh.
Jumping ahead there. Sorry.
No,
but he takes care of those hobbits like they're his children. He
Right.
loves them. He's the only wizard who takes pleasure in spending time with the hobbits, right?
Right.
He really thoroughly enjoys it. And they just blame all this bad stuff on it. Must be Gandalf's fault.
Right.
So I also think it's funny, we see this time and time again, big water. Hobbits are so. I guess
they are.
The hair weighs them down, and they can't. Hair on their feet weighs them down. They can't swim. I don't know. They love to fish, though. They love to fish, but they're afraid of water.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or at least in Hobbiton, right?
Because, that's true. Okay, that's yep.
I mean, for example, because we always get that perspective, and it's just like anyone who is east, north, or west, or south,
they're
or
all
wherever.
Queer.
Yeah, I mean, they really are.
They're weirdos,
and it's like it's just kind of funny to me, right? So that they, if they can't see them and they don't interact with them day to day, then something's up, man.
They are straight up small town folk.
They are, which is great.
It's awesome. I love them. So it's the worst fate in the world is always related to drowning, being drowned. Frodo refuses to believe in Bilbo's demise, so all these rumors are swirling, and he's nope, Bilbo's fine. And I think at one point they even say, when asked, what happened to him then? When hobbits would ask him,
yep.
Shrug the shoulders.
Yep.
I don't know. Wouldn't even say anything.
Yeah.
I don't care. He's still alive.
Right.
And he keeps having his birthday parties.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. He's celebrating, again, here you go, with the theme of this chapter, celebrating the shadow of his uncle, right? The memory of his uncle.
Good call.
It's weird. I mean, it's not, I guess it's not weird. I shouldn't say it's weird, but it shows how much Frodo loved his uncle, probably how much he misses him. Maybe that's the only way he can feel like he's close again is through this party every year that Bilbo took such delight in. Mm-hmm. And so he keeps having those. And at these parties, it's snowing food and raining drink.
Yeah, I know.
Just more of the imagery from Tolkien. It's you can imagine that.
Well, I think it's kind of interesting. I mean, this is a memory that they shared, right? So, I mean, they always shared this. So that time comes around and it's sort of like, this is his family, you know? His mom and dad, drowned. And so it's like he has Bilbo and he likes to reminisce and think about him. So Frodo carries on this Baggins reputation for oddity, which we get into here a little bit. And I kind of just wondered as I was reading, there are other, not the Sackville Bagginses, but there are other Bagginses, right? And so it's like, how did they feel about Bilbo and Frodo, in their name? You know what I mean? Is there any association there? Do they resent those two?
Good question.
Right? I mean,
good question.
I thought that'd be kind of neat to back to your drama.
Explore that a little bit. I know, man.
Be interesting to kind of see, right?
Yeah.
Frodo, continues to sell. He refuses to let the legend of Bilbo die, and I actually think one of the reasons why it mentions in the book that. They're not talking about just 99 days later or a year and a day. They mention years, it may be ages later that you have Mad Baggins, right? And so he became a legend. It's not like years from now they're still talking about. It's no, maybe centuries later.
Yeah,
they're talking about Mad Baggins. That's how big of a deal.
And that's kind of where your mind goes when you hear that term Mad Baggins. You're like, dude, so it has to be way far removed because it's his first name's not even remembered.
Right.
He's not Bilbo Baggins or Mad Bilbo Baggins. He's just Mad Baggins.
Right.
He was the crazy Baggins. Yeah, I did the same thing for me. It transports you not just, like you said, not just a year or 10 years or 20 years. It's hundreds of years.
Yes. Well, you think
maybe when hobbits aren't even roaming the Shire anymore.
Yeah, could be. You think of Old Took.
Yeah.
Was how we refer to him, right?
What's his first name?
Right. So
I don't know. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah. Well, I think they do mention it.
They do.
Okay.
I just can't remember.
I can't either.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, that's a neat
Bull
sort
roarer.
of
Bull roarer.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, clutch. Good job. But there's this. I don't know. It's similar. You know what I'm saying? It's that. I wonder how many years ago that was. We'd almost look that up. Someone who's listening, yeah, maybe.
Wait, what is the question?
Old took. Like how long ago? Like how many?
Dude, I don't know. He's like a
how long has that
great
legend
uncle or something, or I don't know.
Yeah. So
yeah, long time.
But anyways,
yeah,
interesting stuff. So,
I just kind of said I had notes here that pretty much say what you said. He emulates his uncle, right? He lives alone, doesn't have a lot of friends, right? Kind of keeps to himself, and his closest friends are Merry, Pippin, Falco, Boffin, and Fatty Bulger.
Yep.
So that's pretty much it. He keeps a tight circle around him. Sam isn't even mentioned there, and that's one of the differences in the book from the film.
That's right.
In the films, Sam is more of. I mean, he's obviously his gardener, but they do a good job. Yes, but they do a good job of making him making them more like friends.
Yeah. And
in the book, it's more like he's his friend, but he's also his servant. Mm-hmm. The whole class thing.
Do you know what I didn't know?
Yeah.
Is that not until recently, until we started this podcast and I was looking stuff up, Sam wasn't in the original draft, the first drafting of this or whatever.
Holy cow! I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I just shocked my bollocks.
No, isn't that crazy? Like, well, maybe he was, but not to the level that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just read that somewhere,
his
and then I was listening.
Increased.
I read it, and then I heard it in another podcast somewhere else, and I was like, no way, So super.
Dude, that blows my mind.
Yeah,
that's insane. So, but Sam's not mentioned there, right? In his list of friends. He takes to wandering by himself, far from home, in the hills and the woods, under the starlight, and rumored to be even visiting with elves.
Mm-hmm, right.
Okay? So those are all traits that Bilbo had too. He's even well preserved, right? People, the hobbits were saying, some people have all the luck.
Right.
He's got all these riches that are jewels, JOOLS, that are overflowing his tunnels, and he doesn't get any older. He's got it all.
Well, it's to a certain point, though. At one point, it's just like he has all the luck, and then it's like by the time he's getting close to 50, it's odd.
You're right.
Now
it becomes an
odd.
oddity. Yes, that's right. Good. Thank you. Yep. So at first, he's pretty happy. He likes being the only Bag Ends at Bag End, but underneath there's a shadow of regret.
What?
Shadow of regret. Shadow of regret that kind of haunts him. So again, another shadow comes into play. He should have gone with Bilbo.
Yeah.
He often thinks about why didn't I go? I should have followed after him.
Yep.
And it's that time of year. It's always in the fall. I have a little thing I want to read here. Mm-hmm. Is it all right?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
He found himself wandering at times, especially in the autumn, about the. Oh my gosh, sorry, dude, not wandering. Let me restart that.
Wondering?
Yeah. Lane's having a little bit of a break.
A minute there. Mm-hmm.
He found himself wondering at times, especially in the autumn, about the wildlands, and strange visions of mountains that he had never seen came into his dreams. He began to say to himself, perhaps I shall cross the river myself one day, to which the other half of his mind always replied, not yet. Right? And you almost kind of, so this, I know where your mind's going. What is it that's telling him not yet? Is there some deeper magic there or deeper power influence going on to influence him to say not yet?
Did you read my notes ahead of time?
No. Are you serious?
This is great. This is why we do
Get
this.
into yours. Jump into yours, baby.
No, I love that we do this blind because sometimes we come up with different things and sometimes we come up with the same thing.
And maybe we should tell people that.
Yeah, I think it's
we don't
important.
read each other's notes before.
No.
This is the first time we're hearing them.
Because it's more natural and it just feels like a club. Like everyone brought their notes and you share. So one of the things that I had down that I'll jump into. Well, actually, I'm going to skip down to what you just read so we stay there.
Jump in there because we have the same. This is like the same block together.
I actually quoted the same thing. He found himself wandering at times.
I see it now.
You see it? And the idea.
Oh my gosh.
So my question was he under the influence of the ring? Or is there something in the old Took blood that's preparing Frodo? Is there some magical bloodline, something there? Or is it protecting him in a sense?
Oh my gosh, dude.
Right? Some old type of magic maybe. And then here's something really interesting. All right, this is Stickle bats me once, Stickle bats me twice. All right, here we go.
Shame on us.
Gandalf in the Silmarillion, yeah, thank you, was known for bringing dreams or inspiring others to dream, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
sweet.
That was actually something that I kind of like when I was younger. Wow. I was always like Googling and reading up on Gandalf just because I loved him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to learn that that's sort of whether he inspired them or it was just like dreams kind of surround him, right? Yeah. So that's interesting.
It's very interesting. So some influence there, maybe.
But I don't know that I believe that it is Gandalf. I actually think it could be something else.
It could be, and it might be nothing at all too. We might be looking too much into it. But it's just interesting how, that dual nature is brought up again. Mm-hmm. But well, we learn a little bit Gandalf's feelings. So I could almost see, or maybe Gandalf is. I don't know, man. Maybe the conflict there is there too to buy him some more time. Maybe that's the greater purpose for Frodo to because he's not.
Right?
We'll get there. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're good. You're fine.
Yeah.
I think you're onto something. Yeah.
So I'll go back here. I apologize. We're skipping around a little bit.
You're fine.
And if this stuff applies to what you have in that blue, jump in and cut me off.
No, yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
He's restless at the age of 50, right? Mm-hmm. Because not only. Like obviously it's something subconscious is going on, but also he's reminded that that's when Bilbo had his adventure, right? That's when he set out with Thorin and company to make that happen, and all his old paths were too well trodden. I know I love that part because I know exactly, and I think everyone knows that feeling, right? Even if you love where you're from. There are just certain times where you think, I've walked this road so many times.
Right.
Even if it's just to appreciate this road again, I've got to go away.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I need a new path. I've got to blaze something different. Even if it's not across the world, even if it's, 2 counties over and I go on a different hike or I go check out a restaurant that's in a different state or, it's like, it's so interesting how, or if it's taking a new job in another country, right? It's interesting how he phrases that in a way that is very practical. It can be talking just about him walking on paths that he's walked on too many times, or it can be metaphorical and so much more. Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's what Tolkien does.
That's what he does. He does.
The dude is a master.
He's a genius.
Say whatever you want to about what's his face? Gur
Martin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Gur Martin.
I mean,
yeah,
he's
good. But
okay, he's. I mean,
but Tolkien's
he's impersonating Tolkien.
Master.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what he's doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. So real quick, just on that too well trodden. Okay.
Yeah.
That phrase. What that does, it paints a picture in your mind, right? And everyone who, like when you read that, you can connect with that. Mm-hmm. That's the thing is that you can make a connection there with that character right away. You're like, I know what that feels like actually, and so that just takes you right there. And I think that puts you in the story, and it. I don't know.
And who are you rooting for at that point? You're rooting for Frodo. Mm-hmm. You want him to find. Yeah, you want him to find that wholeness, right? He's not feeling like he's won. He's feeling like what I wrote down next is we see this duality again. It's present in Bilbo, and we'll learn later it's present in another character. Mm-hmm. And Frodo craving adventure and feeling ready, but the other half of him saying not yet. So it's interesting to note too at this time, and this is something different for me that you don't see this in the movies, mostly because we just don't spend the amount of time there. A lot of this is condensed, and it feels like from the party to when Frodo eventually leaves the Shire, spurred on by Gandalf, it feels like maybe a couple months,
right?
Maybe,
that's right.
But we'll talk a little bit how it's a lot longer period of time, and you guys know that you've read it. It's way longer, but we see here Merry and Pippin are very concerned for Frodo.
Yes,
they begin to worry about him. He's often hanging out with wayfarers, people just traveling through the Shire. Some of them are starting to look kind of rough around the edges, and they're concerned for Frodo. And that's something we see it a little bit at times in the films, but it was cool to see that deeper character development here of Merry and Pippin being a little less comic relief and a little more concern for their friend.
Right.
It's just kind of cool. It fleshes them out a little bit more. I like that. So, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and how cool and like mysterious and almost like
I know
because as hobbits go, like you have Gandalf who comes and goes, and there's some mystique there, right? But then with Frodo, he's like becoming this. I don't know. He's like a champion of the Hobbit community. It's just like he's a man of importance. Yeah, you know what I mean. And he's like meeting with these different people because we know some of the caliber of some of these. Wayfarers that he's meeting and talking to. And it's sort of like, whoa. Right. I mean, so I think that's really cool. And I almost like in my head can picture, if I'm, Merry and Pippin back here kind of watching him on like a hill, right? And we're back behind like some shrubs, right? And the sun is setting. And
he's silhouetted.
He's silhouetted meeting this, whoever, stranger. It's like, oh man, something.
It's awesome, dude. Yeah.
Okay, let's see what I got here.
And they're also, the other thing too, is they're probably hearing, I mean, well, we know they are. They're hearing people talk about him in ways that, that he's not himself hearing. Like people are talking about Frodo more candidly with Merry and Pippin, or they're hearing rumors, rawer rumors than he is himself. And so that would make you want to look out for your friend even more. Like we know he's not crazy. We don't want what people are saying. I guess maybe to come true in a certain sense. Like they don't want him to get too heavily involved with stuff, but I don't know. They just want to,
Well, that's a good point. No, here, hold on. Let me try to
finish that
because
slam home.
It's the idea that like these hobbits, they hear all these things happening, right? Yeah. They're very dismissive because they want to.
Yeah.
It's a choice, and it's like, but. Deep down, maybe in the private maybe not at the Green Dragon or the Ivy Bush, but in the privacy of their home, they're talking about these things. Yeah, right.
That's true.
And so it's probably maybe quote unquote strange or queer to talk about it out in public. Yeah. But so I could see these two friends being worried about who's he meeting with, because we're hearing all these different things that are happening.
Oh, that's another. Yeah, I didn't think about that.
That's where I was thinking. It's like, what's going on?
Is he in trouble?
We have to keep an eye on him because he meets with some strange folk, and we've been hearing some strange things. Right. So
that's true.
I don't know. But I think you and I on these next two, we have sort of like we kind of get in. You're going to talk about the shadow here, rumors of strange things happening. Why don't you? Because mine is sort of the same thing too. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So we start to hear words that are mentioned for the first time, locations, and also terms for groups of people. We hear rumors of strange things happening and whispers. And whispers are like the verbal representation of a shadow, right? So again, this shadow theme coming out, whispers, right? It's not even a full voice. A shadow is not a full person. It's their, the faintest part of them. So anyway, we hear this whispers of the enemy and the land of Mordor. All right. And these are being heard in the Shire, and that doesn't normally happen. They're not normally throwing around the land of Mordor and like the enemy capitalized. And these things aren't really, and because of that, they're not really well known to them. They're like a shadow in the background of their memories. Like they know of its existence. They know it was more powerful at one time, but that's it. They're not proficient in the ways of the Dark Lord and his forces. So yeah, I think it makes
all things that are in the white spaces. So like they can point and say, it's that direction, but really,
no details. Right. And so we're kind of left in the dark.
From their point of view.
Yes, from this point of view. And at this point in the chapter, we're kind of like, well, okay, interesting. Well, what is this going to do? What is this dark power? We also learned that the Dark Tower, Barad-dûr, is rebuilt. Orcs are out and about, and trolls are getting a little wiser, a little more cunning, I think it even says. Yep. And that scares them because there are trolls all over the place. There are orcs all around. They've been seen all around, the borders of the Shire. So that's a scary thing. It's dark times.
There's especially the reference to trolls because we had that with Bilbo. Yeah. And we know those are much maybe closer to home than like an orc might be. But they encounter trolls. They know what trolls are. And so something that you keep mentioning, we're talking about shadows. Yes. Right? So the first time that Mordor is mentioned here, I mean, actually, if you like, there is like in the beginning of the book, very, very, very beginning, we have I forget what it's called. It's written in iambic. It's almost like a poem or whatever, but it's the 3 rings for the elven kings under the sky, right? The 7 for the dwarf lords in their halls of stone, and 9 for mortal men doomed to die. So we already hear we start to hear about the rings in the beginning, right? And we actually hear about Mordor there too, which is interesting. But one thing that I thought was really cool, a phrase that's repeated twice, in the land of Mordor where the shadows lie. Okay, so since we're talking about Mordor here, I kind of thought shadows lie. And just what does the word lie? Are the shadows, are they whispering lies? Or are they just there?
Yeah, the double meaning of the word
right?
lie.
It's just Tolkien again.
The depth.
Genius.
Yeah, and the layers he puts. Yeah, wow.
So I thought
Never thought of it that way, dude.
Those shadows lying and whispering things that they, you know what I mean? Again, sort of like the ring itself,
it does lie. Yeah,
right.
Take me out of that box, Bilbo.
That's right.
I'm safer in your hands.
Yep.
Bullshit.
Right. Yeah. Sticklebats. Okay. So something I had down here. So yeah, we learn that rumors of strange things are happening from the world outside, and those things are reaching Frodo's ears and the hobbits of Hobbiton, right? And my questions that I kind of had as I was reading that, we in the margins I'm kind of writing, where is Gandalf?
Yeah.
Okay. Why are there so many elves walking through the Shire?
Yeah.
Which they mentioned there's an uptick in that.
Yeah.
Okay. What's with the unusual number of dwarves also on the ancient east to west road?
Yep.
And
Great
something that
East
was
Road.
really cool that I didn't actually know or didn't see. See, what I love about what we're doing now is we're really looking at every line and kind of analyzing. And you kind of have to with Tolkien, right?
Yeah, you do.
Because it mentions how the dwarves would, they wouldn't say a whole lot, or how did it put that? Like that the hobbits wouldn't ask a whole lot of questions, and the dwarves wouldn't really say too much.
Right.
So they got just a tidbit of information, though, carried from either Misty Mountains or the, Erebor or wherever they may be coming from, right? So
here you go. I got it right here. You want me to read it?
Yeah.
They were the hobbits. Speaking of, let me back up. And dwarves had also used it on their way to their mines in the Blue Mountains. They were the hobbits' chief source of news from distant parts, if they wanted any. As a rule, dwarves said little, and hobbits asked no more.
Yeah, there you go.
So, it's got to be big news
but they're getting something there.
Yes.
And so they get those tidbits, which then they share with the Green Dragon, So, okay, so what does Mordor mean to the hobbits? And you kind of already mentioned this a little bit, but it said that it was only new in legends of the dark past, like a shadow in the background of their memories. It seemed that the evil power in Mirkwood had been driven out by the White Council, only to reappear in greater strength in the old strongholds of Mordor.
Yeah.
So they, again, in those white spaces, they do kind of know, and again, that's more narration too. Maybe that's for us, but
right.
I still feel like we're talking right there about how much they do know about Mordor, and maybe they knew enough to know that, hey, things were starting to get better. Things were starting to kind of, there's an uptick. And I wonder if they connect that with Bilbo, because, you know what I mean?
That's a good question.
That was Gandalf meddling. That was his whole thing.
Yep.
He wanted to meddle. He wanted he felt like we needed to restore these old houses and places of power. We need Thorin and company to go back to the Lonely Mountain and to Erebor because and to take it back.
Right, because it's it'd be more dangerous for dark powers to do
inhabit
the same
that
thing.
place.
Right. Yeah, be a stronghold. Right. That's how he saw it. It's like a chess game for him.
That's right.
As the overseer. Right.
And so what's interesting is that I love that reference there to the White Council and what they were working on, and basically that at the end of the Hobbit, peace was kind of spreading to places in Middle Earth like Mirkwood, which I don't know where this comes from, but there was a reference that Mirkwood might turn to the Greenwood or might come back, and it wouldn't be as dark, I guess, since what was it there in Dol Guldur they were able to expel the necromancer, right?
Yep.
So, and then places like the Lonely Mountain and Dale, that's prospering. We get that in chapter 1. Dale is shipping goods, to Bilbo and stuff, and
making
things
toys.
Right. Things are going well.
Yeah.
So, which is good. The Misty Mountains, the goblins, and the Battle of the Five Armies, and things like that. So some of them have been, killed. So that might be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
And then just basically this idea of the spreading of peace seems like maybe that it started to kind of stop here.
Yeah.
And for a while, though, that 60 years or whatever, and then all this time with Bilbo back in the Shire, I wonder if they were hearing good news, from those dwarves. There was an uptick in good news, and now it's turned the other way.
And it's interesting too how they gauge the outside world with not only like what news is coming through, but who is traveling through the Shire, right?
Right.
It's very interesting how it's like they're I don't know. They're just there and they get their news. They're not proactive in learning about the outside world. It has to come to them. Mm-hmm. And so they just receive information. And so they're not very well prepared for anything.
Right.
Which is one of the scary things about the Shire, because you want and Hobbits is you want them to stay protected. You want them to stay because they're a pocket of innocence within.
Right.
And and they have their problems too, obviously, but it's inconsequential stuff.
Right.
There's no evil in the Shire,
right.
and so because they just receive it and they're more reactive, you worry about safety.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting.
That is very interesting.
So how that
deep
news,
there.
Yeah,
deep in talk as.
Well, I love we were talking about the parallels between The Hobbit and in this chat. Some of those we need references to The Hobbit. We're still in the beginning of this passing of the torch to Bilbo.
Yeah.
Or to Frodo. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of interesting that we get some of that as they learn about this place, Mordor.
Yes.
So
yeah.
Okay.
Because that wasn't the focus of The Hobbit.
No.
It was a more like just in general evil. Exactly. It wasn't this centralized, deeper, older evil. And we talk about that a little bit later on, I think, how he's really like what he's doing here is he kind of made
higher.
Yes.
Yeah.
And previously he made generalizations about places and history. And what he's doing here is he's fleshing it out and he's telling us a lot. He's also leaving a lot in mystery, and it's letting us know that, and giving us even greater confidence in Tolkien that there's way more stuff going on here. He has a firm grasp on it. He's not just making it up. He's not like, oh, this chapter, what should I call the bad guy? Or
yeah,
I'll call it the dark place.
Right.
No, these have specific names. They have history that goes like thousands of years, and so again, it makes it. It elevates the status of this book.
Oh, absolutely.
Transitioning. Yeah.
So absolutely.
I love this part, right? Jeez, dude, we are like, this is amazing.
I know we have so many notes.
Guys, that first part. Okay. If you're listening again, just skip the first part of this podcast and just go right to this reread.
Yeah, really.
Like all the stuff before. I was so nervous just because I wanted to get into this.
I know.
So we have this is cool. We have another familiar conversation, right? It's at the Green Dragon and it's in Bywater. So it's not the Ivy Bush. But we've got Ted Sandyman and Sam Gamgee, all right, which is a parallel to Sandyman and Gaffer Gamgee in Chapter 1.
Right.
And again, Tolkien uses this third-person perspective to show what characters are like and show us the perspective and opinions of these other characters and in general, the opinions about them. So in the first one, it was Bilbo. Right. In Chapter 1, this same parallel conversation was about Bilbo, and now we're shifting our focus to Frodo. And it's the same kind of like conversation. You got Ted Sandyman who's all about, he's just crazy. If you believe all this stuff, you're cracked, you're nuts. And it's and this is something really cool that happens here is we are in our first real scene with him, we are endeared to Samwise Gamgee.
Yeah, we are.
This makes you just fall. I don't care who you are. If you're reading this book, you're going to fall in love with Sam Gamgee and realize he is of the highest quality. He's just amazing. Like father, like son. Yes.
I just as I was reading this again, because these are like notes that I haven't seen, and so
on both sides.
This is the first time we're talking about this chapter, which is why I love this.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the path, like the parallel here, right? You've got the Sandyman and you got the Gaffer. Their opinions are kind of the same on stuff. It's like both their fathers had kind of passed on the same mindset and stuff, and it might tell something about society and maybe just how we raise our kids and because I educate kids, and so it's most of what they believe and their views about the world are what they got from their parents.
Yeah.
As it should be,
Yeah.
right? But and then there's that time where we're about to go on an adventure here and learn much more.
And let's look at Frodo too.
Yeah.
He's a lot like his uncle, who was a lot like his father, right? I mean, he was a father figure to him. So, so yeah, that's a great point. I love how Sam is enthralled by the wonder of the queer news from abroad.
You're right, yeah.
Right? And Ted dismisses it all as bedtime stories is what he calls it.
Right.
And then also, they talk about trees moving in the Northmoors. We haven't talked about Ents yet, but I wondered to myself, are those Ents?
Right.
Kind of cool. Page 43, Sam's cousin Hal goes on a hunting trip. This has nothing to do with anything. Yeah. I just wondered to myself, what do hobbits hunt? They out after grouse, pheasant, or something, or
mushrooms?
Mushrooms. That's right, dude.
I think they hunt mushrooms.
You're probably right. I was thinking animal, and I had this comical view of like a hobbit with a shotgun,
right? I know
out there, or a rock,
right?
A slingshot, and they're getting ready to hit a small mini deer, or a mule deer or something.
Right.
I think it's probably mushrooms.
They're hunting mushrooms. Yeah. I don't know. No, I'm just
thanks, Az.
Could be anything. You fill in the
kid, Ted Sandyman. We learn of Sam's love of the elves, and even though he loses this conversation, right? That was the general consensus of those present in the Green Dragon, right? Ted Sandyman bested Sam, whatever. We believe and we feel it's a victory for Sam because he wins himself to our hearts and becomes, I would say, definitely to this point, and maybe even throughout the rest of the stories, in my opinion, he's the most endearing character that we encounter. Right. He's faithful to his master Frodo. He's faithful to himself. He believes in the magic that's going on. He believes that these stories are crazy, and he doesn't shy away from his intrigue and his interest in it. Like, he doesn't let Ted Sandyman steal his wonder. Right. He gets laughed at, right? But even that doesn't change him. He's a resilient, strong. You learn everything you need to know about Sam in this scene. Right. It's just
he's
really
optimistic.
Cool.
He's a dreamer.
Yes. Yeah. And it really sets up what happens later. He's the guy you want as a companion. Yeah. And that's what we learn here.
Absolutely.
So,
one of the things I learned from that conversation,
is that they hunt mushrooms. Thanks, dude. Thanks. Okay. I was hoping for like a porg thing.
No, porgs are not making their way into this.
I mean, come on.
That could be. I wonder. We don't know.
White stag.
Right. No.
Mini stag.
No, what I was thinking about here, it's interesting that Ted Sandyman says the debate is more about listening to what you hear. Yeah. He's like, I've heard those things, but you know, it's what you listen. So it's actually listening to it and attending to it, right? Yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool. He's basically what that told me was that Ted has heard these same things, which he says. Mm-hmm. He says in his childhood he's heard those things, and he kind of talks about them being like stories we would tell our kids, which then made me think he has heard all these different stories about dragons and different things and stuff. And then you have someone like Bilbo who has actually heard the same stories that Ted did, and maybe even just Sandyman and the Gaffer, right? He fought one and returned to tell his story. You know, Bilbo is now telling those stories. So they do a good job in the movie, actually, of him telling about the story about the trolls to the little hobbits, right?
Yeah, I love that.
Little hobbit children, which is really interesting. So, I don't know, and you can tell a little throwback here that is kind of I threw in from the Hobbit. Bungo Baggins, his father it was someone who told him about dragons. And I was thinking about this passing of like information from father to son. Yeah. And it made me think back to Bilbo and how his father, he quotes his father so much. And like his father told him these different things and these one-line singers, right, that he's using throughout the Hobbit. And so every worm has his weak spot is something that he like told. And so he comes out and he tells the dwarves about this, and then he's going back in to check on Smaug.
That's awesome.
It's like, so, but it's just the idea that, that these sons have learned from their fathers. They have the same sort of perspective, but then these stories and these rumors that Sam is sort of invested in and idolized in, and still, and I wonder about the age difference maybe between Ted Sandyman and Sam. Yeah. Because I don't know, or maybe I don't know.
Yeah, Sam definitely seems more youthful, doesn't he?
No, he does. Yeah. So I don't know.
And definitely different personalities, right?
Yeah,
And
and
like
also
you said,
the
their
closeness.
upbringing.
I mean, like you said with Frodo, the closeness to the Baggins family.
Yeah.
That's all.
And they've always been good
to
to him.
Yeah.
Right. You'd feel loyal to him for sure.
Right.
I've got a little section to read. Oh, it's just more Tolkien being Tolkien. It's beautiful. It's called Paragraphs. You care if I read this?
Yeah.
On page 44, this is the end of that scene that we're seeing. So Sam sat silent and said no more. He had a good deal to think about. For one thing, there was a lot to do up in Bag End Garden, and he would have a busy day tomorrow if the weather cleared. The grass was growing fast, but Sam had more on his mind than gardening. After a while, he sighed and got up and went on. And I think we can all relate to that too. Just like you got a lot of stuff on your mind. You know what you have to do for work,
right?
But also you're doing some daydreaming, right? Or some pondering, or just some. That's like my constant state of being. And this I love this. I put a heart next to it. I put a heart next to passages I read in here that Tolkien just nails, like stuff that I don't know. It just I read it and it hits me. So I think that this takes you to a place. I think, and I could even, and it's what middle of winter here. I guess really the beginning of winter, but it's freezing cold. As is using a flathead screwdriver as a bookmark.
Random fact.
Sting. But anyway, this we're middle of a cold winter here, and this just takes me to this place, and I can feel the temperature, I can feel the humidity, I can feel the I don't know, it's just like I know exactly how this feels, and I read it and I can physically feel what he's describing. It was early April and the sky was now clearing after heavy rain. The sun was down and a cool, pale evening was quietly fading into night. He walked home under the early stars through Hobbiton and up the hill, whistling softly and thoughtfully.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's like the walk home from your tavern, right?
Yeah.
And I don't need to say anymore. I mean, he has a way of just putting you in a place. And I mean, I know that feeling in my own little Shire, right? In my own little,
just about to say
in my own little, in my own little town, in my own little home. I know that. I know going out in the backyard in April when it starts to warm up and you've got those beautiful thunderstorms that last for sometimes hours and those big dramatic clouds that just clear out. And then you've got that peak of blue sky right before the stars come out.
Right.
It's just, I love that feeling. I love those times where the physical world is just as dramatic as what's going on in the inside. It's great. Beautiful.
Well, yeah, I was even thinking like just so when another little tidbit here for our listeners, when I come over, sometimes Lane and I will walk down. We don't take our cars.
Yep.
Like we walk down to the carryout. And it's just sort of like in walking back from the carryout or the pizza shop or, down to get a brew or something,
Can I tell you something else too?
Yeah.
Every time. So we have a few more references ahead where they talk about the hobbits and they'll like be eating and drinking and hanging out and smoking.
Right.
And then they go out for a quote unquote sniff of air.
It's in my notes
and
too.
every time that comes up, I'm like, that's me and Ez. That's what we're going to do after we record one podcast. We'll step out for a little breath of fresh air.
Right.
It's just, I don't know. It's cool.
Well,
the little things.
Well, in case we forget it, a sniff of air, and then our writers that are going to have later with the sniffing and stuff.
Oh,
don't forget the sniffing.
Dang, dude.
Pippin says, don't forget
the light
it.
and the dark.
Sorry. Okay.
The duality.
Don't forget that.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So cool. I mean, and is that...
I'm afraid to go outside now.
Yeah, I know, me too. So you have a little note here. When Gandalf returns, he looks... So we're hopping past... Actually, hold on. Wait, before we do that.
Yep.
Talking about Sam, something that I'm going to give credit here was one of my cool connections, but we'll talk about it later.
Okay.
So don't let me forget this.
Yeah.
I listened to another podcast called the Tolkien Professor.
Yeah.
If anybody listens to him, I'm a fan with you because he
steals his stuff from us though.
He does.
Pretty much.
Right. So he actually, I write his, his scripts. But no, absolutely not. He is just, I mean, it's nice to listen to other people talk about it and kind of join other people's communities and clubs.
Yeah.
And so I learned some really cool stuff from him. And what I learned from him is really not like a reread of the book.
Yeah.
It's not really what he's doing. It's he adds these tidbits about Tolkien and the culture and the time period and stuff like that. So, but something interesting that I learned was when Sam is leaving the Green Dragon and the path that he's walking, you find out that the Cotton family happened to live right down near the Green Dragon. And so why is Sam spending so much time here by the Green Dragon? And so I want to say no more about Rosie because we're not. I just had to
Rosie's
for people
awesome.
who have read and watched the films.
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of interesting. I heard that today before on my way down here, and it blew. I was like, blew my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
You know. So I had to
Again, multiple intentions.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
So all right, now we're moving on to our next category. Next section.
Gandalf's back.
He's back. Yeah.
Gandalf shows up.
All right, so this heading is Deep in Talk and the History of the Ring.
This is where we're getting dark here.
Yeah.
We thought it was getting dark before with Bilbo, and this is...
It gets a little darker. Now, this is, we have to note, this is 17 years after the long expected party.
Yes.
Is this where we wanted to say that?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep. This is, yeah. So in reading it, you get a better feel of that. You watch the movies. We were talking about this before. Did we talk about this already?
I don't know.
Or was it before we started? We'll say it again. Mm-hmm. In the movies, it feels like... just because of the nature of trying to fit this many books into 3 films, right? It feels like from the time Bilbo's party happens to the time Gandalf tells Frodo he's got to go, he says, "What must I do?" and leaves with Sam. It feels like, I don't know, a couple weeks, couple months. I mean, it does. We get the idea. It takes a little bit longer because Gandalf's away and he's at this distant place, but he's at Minas Tirith, but we don't know it then, right? Visually, and so. So it seems like a lot quicker when really it's from the time Bilbo leaves to the time Frodo's getting ready to leave and Gandalf comes back, 17 years.
Yeah.
You know, he was 33 at that party. He's 50 now.
Right.
So it's just it is
Yeah.
interesting to know. Yeah, because it seems like there's a lot more in the films. You get this feeling of haste right away.
Right.
Like, let's go.
Right.
Whereas here, there's more patience. There's more, let's make sure before we do anything, quote unquote, rash, let's make sure that this is what we fear.
Yeah. And the ring is Frodo's that whole time. And he,
right. And that's a long time.
Right. To be the ring bearer.
Yeah.
So 17 years. I mean,
it's a long time.
It's important because it doesn't seem like if you skip all of that, that it feels like, oh, he just got it. He's had it for however long.
And that's kind of what the films
Avengers.
feel like, right? There's no relationship with him in the ring. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Oh.
So wait, you want to start us off there? So
sure, I got a lot of stuff. Why don't you jump in?
Yeah, no, that's fine. You're good.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
You go for it.
So I'm kind of all over the place here, but we'll talk about what's going on, and then also we'll dig into details. So Tolkien's doing something very important here. He's showing us again that he has a very detailed backstory and mythos in mind that's underlying our immediate story, right? It's not just what's going on here, and it's not just what happened in The Hobbit. It goes way, way back, and there are other players, quote unquote, more important players, even you could say, than what we've seen so far. So this comes through in The Hobbit, but I don't think it comes to this level of detail, right? Or as explicitly.
Right.
It's left more to our guess in general, and probably because Tolkien was fleshing it out himself, right? He didn't necessarily know exactly. He hadn't discovered the history himself yet, so this is just him revealing that he's figured this out, right? That he has, and this has been going on the whole time. So this chapter shows our author not only has the story in mind, but a great deal many others. So we're reading one story, but I'm sure if you're reading this slowly for the first time and it had just come out, you can think to yourself, wow, well, he can write books forever now. There could be books forever because there's so much else going on here.
Right.
I've got another little part I want to read on 45, and this is the next morning. So this is just more description again. It's just beautiful. Okay. Next morning, after a late breakfast, the wizard was sitting with Frodo by the open window of the study. A bright fire was on the hearth, but the sun was warm and the wind was in the south. Everything looked fresh, and the new green of spring was shimmering in the fields and the tips of the trees' fingers. So, again, even the trees are alive in the Shire. You're darn right they are, Lane. But it's just interesting. So it's a pretty idyllic day, perfect day outside. A bright, shining, beautiful day, and we're about to go dive into this shadow. Right? It's also pretty concerning. I guess we talk about this in a little bit, but the previous night, Gandalf didn't want to talk about this.
Right. He started some things.
Right.
But then he didn't finish those things.
So I want to ask you a question, all right? I want to ask you a question. You're a hobbit.
Right.
Okay? which is hard for you to understand because you're a wizard. I know that.
That's okay.
So you're sitting in the Shire. Gandalf comes to visit you. It's been a long time. So when you see him, you're going to be understandably anxious, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Gandalf's come back. What's going on, Gandalf?
Yeah.
And he says to you, there's, excuse me. Gosh.
Yeah. You're good.
That's the Christie's pizza coming up.
That's
again.
good.
There's some stuff I need to tell you. Little nervous to tell you at night.
Wow.
If someone of Gandalf's stature says, I'm a little nervous to talk about it at night, like that's what like kids say. I don't want scary stories at night because they scare me.
Right.
If someone at Gandalf's level is coming to you and says, I got some heavy stuff to tell you, want to wait for the light of day.
Right.
How do you feel?
Well, I'll tell you what, if I was anyone besides Frodo, you'd pee yourself, right? I think that's something that I saw you sitting here, right?
Yeah.
And I would. Being Frodo, maybe, right? First of all, he's heard of these stories. He's lived in this lore and stuff.
And he's a pretty well-educated hobbit on the
right.
outside world.
Right,
Yes.
absolutely. The last thing Gandalf told me as Frodo was to keep it secret and to keep it safe. So you're right. I am really tensed up because there are things you want to tell me about the ring, but you can't tell me right now.
Right. Do you think he slept at all?
No, I don't think no.
He was sniffing the air all night.
She was out there. I mean,
I bet there's so much pipe weed he smoked.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta calm down.
Right.
I gotta pipe it up here.
That's for sure.
I think there's a cool detail they talk about, or Tolkien mentions here that Gandalf's eyes were as bright as ever. I think he talks about how old he's looking everywhere else, but his eyes have never been brighter. He's
alert.
He is alert, and it's almost like this deeper purpose.
That's right.
Is coming through,
That's
and
right.
he's maybe hasn't really known what his use was before, and maybe he's starting to realize maybe this is my great task.
That's right.
Gandalf's tidings left. I don't know how I wrote that. Sorry. That's just what he said. He's talking about leaving it for the daylight. He's uneasy about discussing it, certain matters at night. We learn the true nature of the ring here, and it's even more dangerous than we had thought.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk
got some stuff. Get in there.
A little bit more about that, okay? Because, let's see. They're talking about the elven rings. Yeah. Let's just break this down for people a little bit, okay?
Yeah.
So when Bilbo found this ring, I got some critiques of Gandalf and just maybe even I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, you're criticizing Gandalf?
Yeah, I'm not. I think so.
Oh, guys, this is
maybe.
Can I take a time out? This is unprecedented in any conversation I've never heard.
I know.
And this is real time here. I didn't know this was coming.
I know.
I've never heard Ezra criticize Gandalf, because I think I even mentioned a couple weeks ago we were talking on the podcast, and I was like, Gandalf's not perfect. And you looked at me like, I mean, you really think so? And so now, I know this is interesting to hear. That's okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
Okay, before we get to the critiques, so like the idea of these, you have lesser rings and you have great rings.
Yeah.
And then you have the one ring to rule them all.
Right.
Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. You had some notes here. I'll just kind of read them if that's okay. Just the idea that a mortal who keeps one of the great rings does not die, but he does not grow or obtain more life. He merely continues, essentially becoming a wraith. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. And that's what happened to the 9.
Yes.
Okay, so they became our ring wraiths.
Yes.
Right? Now, something that's interesting, that didn't happen with the dwarves, though. Right?
Right.
Which is interesting. And it was the nature of the dwarves, I think. Yeah. Something about that,
I think so, too. They talk about men wanting power, men being selfish, and so they would keep it, they'd hide it away. Yeah. Yeah, the dwarves lost them to dragons, or they were
they were
taken from them.
Taken, or they were lost. But they weren't consumed, I guess, they weren't... they didn't become wraiths because it was their nature, like their stubborn nature or something, you know.
Plus, they got a lot of their jewels they're hanging out with.
Yeah. So I don't know. And also, there's invisibility connected with the great rings. Okay. So my critique.
We could do a whole podcast on just the rings.
Oh, I know we could. Yeah, we really
whole
could.
Series.
I know.
Yeah.
My question with Gandalf is, hold on. You had mentioned that they were well preserved. That you just kind of continued, right? It does mention right there also that invisibility is connected with the great rings, and Bilbo is well preserved. How did Gandalf miss this? Did he know that this was a great ring? Because it almost seems like he dismisses it as a lesser ring. And
in The Hobbit.
Mm-hmm. Now I get that not knowing that it would preserve him, but it had the ability for him to disappear. Invisibility.
Right. Did Gandalf know that explicitly? I can't remember.
Actually, I just thought that as I was saying it.
Or
I don't know that he said. I don't know that he knew that.
Did he not know for sure? Because this and this that would follow the theme of this chapter too.
Yeah.
It's all of Gandalf had these suspicions. What did he even say? Oh, he has a quote. He has a quote where. Oh my gosh.
Here, you look it up. I'll because with Gandalf and talking about how did he miss this idea of this being a great ring. My follow up question was, did he know the fate of all the great rings? So you had the 3 that he knew were secured. The 9 had been turned to ring wraiths, and then the 7. There's some mystery around the 7. So did he think it was one of the 7,
right?
And
so and part of this whole 17 years too. And I found the quote. And I'm going to paraphrase it, but he says, Frodo's kind of interrupting him and it kind of being like a Bilbo, how Bilbo was before, sort of questioning him, like, why didn't you know this? Why didn't you tell us? And he said, I think he said, did you know this? And he says, I expected it, right? Mm-hmm. There was a lot I expected, but I didn't know for sure.
Right.
And so, he's probably formulating this. And that's the other thing with Gandalf too, is he doesn't, people accuse him of meddling. He doesn't meddle. I mean, you could argue that, I guess maybe he manipulated Bilbo into going with Thorin, but he didn't take the ring from Bilbo. Bilbo gave it up on his own, and he brings that point up again. He says, I didn't take it from him. That wouldn't have been good. Mm-hmm. And someone who's going to manipulate would have just taken it right from him. So he formulates these theories and is patient and sees how it plays out.
Absolutely. No, and I think you're right, is that he was developing, so I'm questioning him, but I'm also going to provide some answer to it, is that I think he was sort of developing this along the way and was curious. Why did it take so long?
That's my question too.
Why did it take so long? Yeah. Why wasn't it a higher priority? And I have an answer for that too, and it's Saruman and the White Council, which sorry, we're kind of getting outside of the chapter a little bit, but that's I think part of it, and I'm going to even kind of jump ahead a little bit because I thought this is really interesting, and since we're talking about the Great Rings here, Balin, it was very interesting later on in the story. One of the reasons he went secretly to Moria was because they were looking for Thor's ring.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they were looking for the first of the 7.
Wow!
And I'm wondering too. Then did Gandalf know that and not tell? Like, I'm sure he's still communicating with Balin and those guys. Did he? I mean, I guess maybe it was just the unknown. It was lost, so they thought that they could go find it. Mm-hmm. But then I'm wondering, did Gandalf think perhaps that maybe that the ring that Bilbo found was that first ring? But it was. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Thrain. How do I say it? Thor's son, Thrain.
Yeah.
Is it Thrain? I think it's Thrain.
Yeah.
He is actually given the ring. Mm-hmm. But then it's taken by, we learn this, where did we learn that at? It's taken in Dol Guldur, like he was tortured and they took it from him. And then actually,
the Hobbit better than me.
When he gives he gives the map and the key essentially to Gandalf, he learns that from Thrain.
Yeah.
And he's giving the dwarves a way back into Erebor, which was the last thing that he could do.
That's right.
So
that's right.
But if Gandalf knows that, then, process of elimination, what rings are left? Either a lesser ring or the one ring.
That's true.
But then he was dissuaded by Saruman.
Well, and here's something that I had underlined dealing with Saruman. He's talking to, this is coming up later, but he says... No,
let's go there, yeah.
I might perhaps have consulted Saruman the White, but something always held me back. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really address that again, and I want to know, why... Right. When did this start? How did it start? Right? He's your boss. He's the head of your order. At what point did you feel like you shouldn't ask him certain stuff about the great? Because he was, and it goes on to say that he was an expert in the Great Rings. Yes, and so he would be the guy to ask. It's not a question of his knowledge.
Right.
It's a question of his intentions. And so when did he become aware that maybe I shouldn't ask this guy because maybe if this is the One Ring, he shouldn't know about it?
Well, yeah,
and that's deep, dude. Right. That's like, I don't trust this guy enough to know. Otherwise, if you trusted him, you'd be like, hey, I think the Great Ring's over here. You want to come check it out?
Right.
Sure. Yeah, I'll go see if that's the One Ring. No problem. And then, okay, we'll destroy it together. We're wizards. We'll take everybody on. No problem. Right. Or it'd be easier. I mean, Gandalf even...
Some part of Gandalf must have known, because I know people will maybe, if you like our listeners might say, well, guys, hey, we're rereading the book and we know later on. Sorry for those who are just reading.
Whoops.
No, it's okay. That that he meets Radagast and he goes to Saruman. Mm-hmm. So it's like he still trusts him at that point, right? Yeah. But it's like, what the heck, man? I know. But he says there was some sort of misgiving here, right? He didn't go to the one person who knows the most, because Saruman has always dismissed that the ring's lost. Mm-hmm. He's just always said it's whatever, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. But I think personally that's just so he could secretly search it out himself
on his own.
So that's just me. But yeah.
Wow.
So anyways, what do we have here?
Talk.
Yeah. The shadow fell on me again, as Gandalf said. You have it right there.
I don't even know where we are. I'm so
we're on page
in the moment.
5 out of 10, I think. We have 10 pages of notes.
Yeah.
So you have it's at the top one of the pages here. You got the night Bilbo parting, kind of set Gandalf in motion.
Yes.
So he you're talking about, actually this is where I mentioned 17 years. That whole piece that had happened there, but you said that he waited so patiently for some sign or confirmation of the ring being linked to some great evil. Mm-hmm. Some greater evil is kind of what you said. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of what we're talking about here, is that's the reason that answers my question, is that he was looking for that link.
Yep.
Yep. So,
and the link he kind of found is who we go on to talk about next, right? Mm-hmm. Is Gollum is a huge.
That's right.
He is the link.
Right.
I mean, we spend forever talking about the history of Gollum, and we get all of his backstory. Oh, we're enlightened big time on and his relationship with Bilbo, and go ahead.
No, so I just realized a quote that I had written down here that I think is important. So we've got the idea, and I'll highlight where I'm at just so you can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep,
I got it.
Okay, so Gandalf might have had a good educated guess, right, of where he thought things were going. But here's where I kind of had a problem, all right, with Gandalf. Mm-hmm. He goes, I wondered often how Gollum came by a great ring, as plainly it was.
Yeah, right.
So when did he know that plainly it was a great ring? Mm-hmm. Because then it goes from a great ring to the One Ring. Mm-hmm. And if it's not the 9, if it's not the 3, we're only really dealing with those 7. Mm-hmm. And I know he's on a quest with all these dwarves and stuff. So, but it's just like, I don't know. So I'm kind of like, did it really take us this long? Yeah. I mean,
And then again, you've got that like we're talking about.
Gandalf says he made an error though.
Yeah, sorry, he did. Just to say and Gandalf's error was he's too patient.
Yeah.
Right, and I think Gandalf wants. I don't know. Maybe it's because of what he's seen from a lot of other key players in Middle Earth. Is he doesn't want to force anyone's hand. Mm-hmm. Anything that happens, he wants it to feel. I don't know. Like it wasn't because of him and any kind of I don't know, go back to the manipulation thing. He doesn't want to manipulate things into being. Yeah. He almost trusts people too much, and he is incredibly patient. Like for him to have that kind of patience, wow. Right. But it was a mistake. Right. And we'll continue to read to find out if it was a fatal mistake, right, or what. Okay, I got a couple things I want to read here.
Yeah.
On page 47.
Okay.
Got an exclamation point and a heart. This is talking about Bilbo. All right, so Frodo's concerned about Bilbo. He says, is there any permanent harm done to him? He had the ring a long time. And it's interesting to note that Frodo is constantly concerned with Bilbo in this whole conversation.
Right.
He's who he thinks of first.
That's right.
Not even himself. He's like, is my Uncle Bilbo okay?
Right.
And he says, Gandalf says, he felt better at once, but there is only one power in this world that knows all about the rings and their effects. And as far as I know, there is no power in the world that knows all about hobbits.
Yes.
And so right there we learn, we're like, and I guess you could be kind of thinking like, okay, well, hobbits are screwed.
Right.
Like we're in some deep trouble because this ring's stuck in the Shire. We're a long way from, we don't even know where Mordor's far away. Gosh, our heads are spinning. What are we going to do? Hobbits are in trouble. They're like, it should be in the hands of a wizard, right? But the wizard won't take it.
Right.
And he says, like, it's a good thing. No one knows all about hobbits.
Right.
Even I don't know everything about hobbits. Still surprise me, he even says.
Right.
You can learn all that there is to know about their ways in the months, and you have to, after 100 years, you can still be surprised.
Right.
And then I've got another one here. He says, yeah, that's what he just said. Among the wise, I am the only one that goes in for hobbit lore, an obscure branch of knowledge, but full of surprises. Soft as butter they can be, and yet sometimes as tough as old tree roots. It's just a cool... I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
what is that? Metaphor or whatever.
Comparing them to tree roots. Yeah, exactly. So
awesome.
For sure.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so Gandalf confirms for us the importance that Bilbo gave up the ring on his own accord. Like that was very important. He wanted to remind Frodo that this is something. So it had a huge grip on him, but not enough for him to overcome it. Now he did need, like we talked about last chapter, he did need Gandalf's help.
That's right,
big time. Right. But it wasn't Gandalf manipulating him or doing anything. It was all on him.
Well, and that's the thing I think that Gandalf knew that it had to be.
Yes.
Like I mean, because you wonder, why isn't this wizard doing more and just saying, just give it, forcing it out of his hand,
which would be a lot like somebody else.
Right. Would be wrong.
Yeah.
So.
And the thing about the ring too, it seems like it's just as important how you come by having it in possession. Oh, dang it, dude.
That's so great,
man.
Okay,
so I want to read. I've got an exclamation point on 48 here.
Okay.
This is talking about Gandalf, right?
Okay.
And his concern for Frodo. He says, ever since Bilbo left, I have been deeply concerned about you and about all these charming, absurd, helpless hobbits. And that's how we're feeling as an audience too.
Yeah.
Like we're worried. We don't want this place to be destroyed. It would have been a grievous blow to the world if the Dark Power overcame the Shire. If all your kind, jolly, stupid, Bolgers, Hornblowers, Boffins, Bracegirdles, and the rest, not to mention the ridiculous Bagginses, became enslaved. Frodo shuddered. And I did too. I was like, and it's been a while. It's been a minute since I've read this book, right? But I know what's going to happen. But at the same time, I still in this moment feel like on the edge of a knife, right? Frodo shuddered. But why should he be? He asked. And why should he want such slaves? And then they go on to talk about revenge.
Right. Yeah.
Revenge.
And
yeah.
Frodo's worried about that. It's just like, because it scares him even more. He's like, well, I mean, what have we done? It's just like, I get you.
Are we ready for the ring to be thrown in? You think? Or you got
real quick, while we
else?
talked about enslavement there, my whole thing, I just had a quick blurb on the idea that, how did that affect him? How much did that shake Frodo?
Yeah.
And how much did that influence his decision to very quickly, which surprises Gandalf, decide I'm gonna do what I can do, but that we're getting a little ahead of ourselves there. So let's jump back to the fire.
Yeah. Well, and this kind of goes with what you were just saying, though. It's interesting because Tolkien doesn't tell you people's intentions. He lets you guess that on your own,
right?
Which is again what makes him an incredible author. So Frodo took it, talking about the ring. Took it from his breeches pocket where it was clasped to a chain that hung from his belt. He unfastened it and handed it slowly to the wizard. It felt suddenly very heavy, as if either it or Frodo himself was in some way reluctant for Gandalf to touch it. But we're not sure.
Right.
Is it Frodo? Is it the ring? And then reluctant. And if it's the ring, reluctant for Gandalf to touch it. That's also very interesting, right? You'd think the ring would want to get to a powerful figure.
Sure.
And be obviously used by that figure, right? I would think it would be more easily discovered in the hands of Gandalf, and I think he even kind of alludes to that later, than in the hands of a hobbit. So the ring doesn't just know, doesn't just know characteristics of races of people. It knows individual characteristics. The ring must know there that as much as Gandalf thinks maybe, and this is all speculation, it's just where my mind goes.
You're good.
Right? As much as Gandalf believes that he too would be corrupted, the ring's afraid to go to Gandalf. That's interesting. Or reluctant to go to Gandalf. That's interesting.
Right.
I don't know.
Something you just made me think of something, and especially where they make it sound in the film is that the ring felt a growing evil in the Hobbit when it's with Gollum, and it abandons Gollum. But a very unexpected thing happens. It doesn't understand the nature of hobbits, but its master overlooked hobbits in the Shire and had no concern with him. Didn't make Sauron did not make a bunch of rings for,
they were left out, dude.
The chieftain of the Hobbit and
the mayor of,
or whatever. So completely overlooked, and that might be his undoing, right? And that, and it almost feels like there's another power at work that's helping helping these hobbits.
Well, because at this point,
feel this ring.
Up to this point, it's all doom. It's all doom and gloom. There's great evil in the world. We thought we beat it, but hey, it's still hanging around because he poured himself into this ring. And yes, Gandalf has a very important line. Yep. We'll wait for that though.
Okay.
I don't know where that is. I can't remember. Get
where you're at.
He throws the ring in the fire. Well, we still don't know this is the ring yet.
Right.
Frodo, Gandalf says, throw it in the fire. It gets thrown in the fire. Take it out. Puts it in his hand. It's not even hot. It's cool to the touch. All right. And then he says to hold the ring up and look at it closely. And he sees these piercingly bright yet remote, as if out of a great depth, flowing script glowing from the ring.
Yep.
Which he can't read.
Right.
And it confirms to Gandalf, right? He's like, all right. Yeah, I know what it says.
Right. It's what he suspected.
Right.
Right.
It's as I feared.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you want to read some of that, just what it says. I mean, basically, he does tell Frodo in the common tongue, he says, one ring to rule them all, one ring to find them, and one ring to bring them all, and in the darkness bind them.
Yep.
Right. And that was what was overheard from Sauron when these rings were being made.
Yes.
His true intent was overheard, and that has been, passed down, right?
Yeah.
So really interesting.
Unreal. Yeah. So he says, this is the master ring, the one ring to rule them all.
Yeah.
And I love that right after that, like, it's your worst fears, right? So Frodo sat motionless. Fear seemed to stretch out a vast hand, like a dark cloud or shadow, rising in the east and looming up to engulf him. This ring, he stammered. How on earth did it come to me? And then we learn. Gandalf dives into it and tells us, well, this is how it got to you.
Right.
Good Lord, man.
I know. We still have a little ways to go, too, which is great. So we're about to get into... this is so awesome, man. I love it. There's so much in this chapter.
Because you think chapter one...
We've talked about this. We've talked about what chapter 3 will be later on, and that it's not as heavy in the lore and the things that we need to make connections back to the Hobbit and stuff. So
the details it's not as heavy.
This is a really significant chapter, and
Yeah.
it's fine to spend a significant amount of time here, I believe.
Yeah, I agree. So take a break for tea or something.
We'll
Pause
take a quick
come
break
back on.
here.
We want your sharpest.
You moved this because this was not here earlier. Good job.
I don't know what you're talking
when
about.
I wasn't looking at the notes, Lane moved this.
I mean, I don't know. I've been thinking lately.
Right.
I think we should do a Lord of the Rings podcast.
Yeah, I'm with you, buddy. I think we should. Let's do it.
We should.
Yeah.
The problem is though, we've got to get the name just right.
Right.
Do you have any ideas?
This one, I love this name, to be honest with you.
Let's hear it. We'll see if people enjoy it.
Gents. Right?
I don't get that one.
Gents? No, with ents? Gents? Right?
You capitalize the ents.
Right.
Oh,
Are they good?
That's brilliant.
Oh, that's pretty good.
This is just off the top of my head.
Right.
Roast mutton.
Roast mutton sounds pretty good.
A Lord of the Rings podcast. Roast mutton.
Right.
Yeah. Got any others?
I got, one of my, I love wizards. Yeah? So Wandering Wizards.
Alliteration. I love it.
Yep.
Let's play on some Hobbit themes. How about Kirk and Company?
Yeah, that's a good one. I
like that. That's good, right?
Right. No. We're getting close. We'll get there.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there one of these days. Maybe we'll start it. Okay. Back into the history of the ring. Okay. So I actually, we wrote in our notes, we both wrote the same thing. History of the ring discussion. Too much to type up. Yep. Yeah. Just read and discuss.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what we're going to do, and then we'll get into Gollum and his preciousness. But first, let's get into the history. One of the things that did you have something to read from here? Because I have a couple of things here. He goes over again the great rings, talking about the 3, the 9, and the 7, and what have you. Where did you want to start? Because
I can just kind of summarize some of the stuff. I love how he says, it's a very long story. Yes. The beginnings lie back in the Black Years.
Right.
The Black Years? Yeah, we haven't even heard about this, which only the lore masters now remember. And he says, he says up front, I'm not going to tell you the whole tale. He says, if I did, we'd be here until spring turned into winter. Like we'd be here for a year talking. Dark Tower of Mordor, he talks about that name even you hobbits have heard of, like a shadow on the borders of old stories. Always after a defeat and a respite, the shadow takes another shape and grows again.
Yeah.
So again, like, wow, okay, where does our hope lie then? So we're doomed pretty much. Frodo says, I wish none of this had happened to me. And I love this line. It shows up in the movie. I think it's in Moria, but it's really in Bag End. Gandalf says, so do I, and so do all who live to see such times. But that's not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us. Right. And so like we're getting all this doom, right, and all this dark, heavy. The mountain keeps growing, I guess, really is what you're thinking. The road keeps getting longer, and then Gandalf gives us this, and it just puts you in a peaceful state of mind. Like it's that this is happening for a reason, Frodo. I'm telling you a lot of history to make sure that you're prepared, and a lot of dark stuff so that you know what to expect. But there's other things going on here, right? Yeah. There's other forces.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think what I highlighted here was sort of I'll just read this as quick as I can. I mean, it's a little bit long, but it was taken from him. So talking about the ring, and Frodo asked why it wasn't destroyed and what have you, and what happened to it. And he says the strength of the elves to resist him was greater long ago. So there we go. We're getting some diminishing of their light and their power. And not all men were estranged from them. The men of Westernness came to their aid, which is cool because we're gonna, as you know, we'll get to more of those old alliances and stuff coming back. And then skip down here a little bit. Talk about that tale, right? But he said, but for the moment, since most of all you need to know how this thing came to you, and that will be the tale enough. This is all I will say. It was Gil-galad, Elven King, and Eldolin of Westernness. Elendil? Yeah. Thank you. Westernness, and that's Isildur's father?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Of Westernness, who overthrew Sauron. And though they themselves perished in the deed, Isildur, Elendil's son, cut the ring from Sauron's hand and took it for his own. Right? So then this is basically... we get a good
summary.
Yeah,
right.
We get a good this, and the film was done really well. Like they kind of just
the prologue,
right? Yeah. And they show Sauron's there and different things. But and then Sauron was vanquished. His spirit fled and was hidden for long years until the shadow took shape again in Mirkwood, which you were kind of talking about. So I thought it was kind of cool to go back and kind of see who these players were that had helped to overthrow him, and that he can be overthrown, and that he can be defeated. Right. And it was just sort of the idea: why wasn't it destroyed?
Right. Right. And then we learn that Isildur took the ring, lost he put it on, then it slipped off his finger and became visible again. And an orc band that he was trying to escape from ended up killing him. And then that the one ring fell down into the depths of the Anduin River and lay there for a long time, passed out of all knowledge and memory, and then we learn about how it was discovered. Right. Yeah.
And this is our next section actually, which is Gollum and his preciousness.
That's right.
That's really precious. My precious. Oh, I thought you said Ness on there, so it's just preciousness. And his preciousness.
My preciousness, man.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Wow. My gosh, dude. Smeagol and Bilbo have very similar backgrounds. They're both, Hobbit or Hobbit-like creatures. They come from wealthy families. Bilbo is the descendant of a patriarch, and Smeagol is the descendant of a matriarch within their societies.
Right.
Yes. Read this part.
Right. So
this is awesome.
I found this sort of just like a connection between hobbits and Gollum, which they're trying to show us, right? This connection. Birthday presents, give it to me versus give it to others.
Right.
Which I thought was really interesting. So the hobbits learn something? Was it just a different sect of the hobbits that or did this evolve over time?
Or is that just Smeagol?
Is that just Smeagol? Right.
Yeah.
But I thought it's so interesting that hobbits give gifts on their birthday.
And
that selfless was awesome. Thing. And this was a very selfish thing.
Yeah.
You're right. So, and then it goes on to talk about
he is kind of Bilbo's shadow, isn't he?
Like his opposite.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's interesting too. Gollum finds the ring, Deagle. So Gollum was Smeagol, right? That was his hobbit name. That's who he was before he turned into the creature Gollum.
Right.
And Deagle was his cousin? Something.
I don't know if it was a friend.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So Deagle finds the ring. He's fishing. He gets pulled overboard, finds the ring, comes up, and Smeagol sees it and instantly wants it. Ends up killing Deagle, right? Taking the ring. And so, again, like Gandalf talks about, interesting how people come in possession of the ring. He came to it by way of murder and like bloodlust.
Right, yeah.
And took it for himself. So, didn't come into it in a good way, as bad of a way as you can come into a ring of power, I guess.
Yeah.
So he tells this whole story about Gollum, and you guys read it, right? I love Gandalf's reaction and Gandalf's wisdom. I think Frodo's saying like, "What a terrible creature!" He's a like wretched. He's awful. Gandalf says, "I think it's a sad story." Gandalf talking about Bilbo, and Gollum says they understood one another remarkably well. And Frodo doesn't like this. Like, he doesn't like this comparison. How can you compare my uncle to this evil creature? And Gandalf says even Gollum is not totally ruined. He's not all the way gone. What wisdom. Like, again, the slow to anger, the patience, and being able to see that there is some good in him still.
Yeah. Well, real quick, why draw a parallel between the two? And I think it's to show Frodo almost like it's almost like creating a future self-pity. This could be you. This could be your fate.
This could get anybody. Yeah, anybody who and to show that these two creatures are similar, right? In origin, I thought was supposed to kind of do that. And pity is something that I'd mentioned here is that where was it at here? I better wait for that. No, I'll jump to it because at one point, Gandalf is talking about Frodo actually says that he wishes Bilbo would have just killed Gollum. Ended it right there. Killed him.
Yeah. What a pity Bilbo didn't slay Gollum. But it was actually pity that stayed his hand.
Yeah,
right.
I love that.
And with pity, Bilbo began his ownership of the ring.
Right.
So that had a lot to do with how the ring influenced Bilbo, and I think Gandalf makes that a really big point.
Yeah.
It's your desire, and actually, he even says, I think it was either before this or it's the next chapter, I can't remember, where he's talking about. No, it must be this chapter where he said, your intent has a lot to do with how you can prolong, I guess, the effects, or stave off the effects that this ring will have on you.
Yep.
So I think that was really kind of neat, and that's going to come back into play later on.
Yeah.
As we keep reading.
Yeah.
But to kind of back up here, there's a little bit more where we talk about. So once we learn about how Gollum got the ring, and then how it was passed on to Frodo, and that pity piece happens there, we learn what Gandalf's been up to, really. And that
that's true.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, where's he been? What's he been doing a little bit? And now we kind of start to learn that he has actually been seeking Gollum, and he's had help from Wood Elves and Aragorn and the Rangers.
Yeah, we meet some pretty big characters. That we don't
mention
fully
Aragorn.
Know yet. Right.
I forgot they mentioned him here.
Yeah.
Right here.
Right.
So later on, it makes sense why Frodo recognizes that name. You know. So right here we learn that, and so let's see what else we have here. Oh, Gandalf's mistake. I have a point here just talking about his mistake in that he was pursuing Gollum, and then what was it that came up? Something came up that he had to go attend to, and he they lost the trail.
Yeah,
and basically
gave up the hunt for a little bit.
Gave up the hunt.
Yep.
Right, and then the enemy got to Gollum beforehand.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what was the biggest mistake of all was Bilbo's, right? Bilbo wasn't thinking ahead. He probably didn't think it'd ever come back to him again.
He didn't know what he was. He had no idea what he had in his pocket.
Told him his name.
Right.
And he told him where he's from. Shire, Baggins, and that's all the enemy needed to know. And they got it out of. They got it out of Gollum.
They did. And he has now these good friends. Good strong friends that Gollum has. He has new friends. You know. So and that was actually again, before he got caught, but like either or.
Right, but he's just being manipulated, and I don't know how you don't feel bad for Gollum. I mean, he's just so pitiable, dude. I mean,
at one point, Gandalf talks about how Gollum both he hated himself and he loved himself.
Yeah, right.
You know, and it was it's torture.
Yeah,
I mean it fully had consumed him. It was a power that he couldn't resist. I mean, it's one of the the one ring.
One of our listeners, actually, Daniel Couts posted on because he's doing the reread with us. Posted on Facebook, and he talks about that part, and he brings up addiction.
Okay,
I thought it was really interesting, and that is how an addict would feel, right?
Right.
And we all are addicted to certain things, right? And you love and you hate yourself, and you love the thing you're addicted to, but you hate it because of what it does to you. And very interesting. And he is an addict for the ring for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, to kind of end up, to wrap up this section, we're just learning to have pity on Gollum. But Frodo is like freaking out here at this point. He's heard all this stuff. He's figured out now. He's heard the story of how the ring came to his possession, and that it is the one ring to rule them all.
Yeah.
And he's this small, hobbit and hobbiton, with this, help me, Gandalf. What do I do?
Right.
And
he says on page 54, that there's more than one power at work.
Right.
Which is huge. And then you added on to that. Yeah. The next beat, which is very important.
Yeah. Bilbo was meant to find the ring, not by the will of Sauron.
Right. So this is the first, apart from Gandalf's previous comment, it's the first hope we have.
Yeah.
It's the first, as an audience, we're thinking like, well, we're in huge trouble here. And this is Gandalf saying, look, like we've talked a lot about evil, but there's a lot of good in this world, and there's good forces that you can't see that are working just like the dark forces.
Yeah.
So
and that was the whole point of his conversation about, we don't know everything there is to know about hobbits.
Yeah.
There's so much to them.
Right.
That there's another force at work here. Yeah. So yeah.
Gives you some hope, right? There's always hope.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now we move on to our final.
Good Lord.
So,
Hour 5, guys.
Yeah.
I wonder if the cameras are still going.
I have no clue.
Probably not. I don't care.
This is great though. I love it. And hopefully you're still here listening with us, or you've paused it, took a
break,
nap,
came back.
Right. So our final and fourth heading here for the reread of this chapter is an adventure of a different kind. Mm-hmm. Okay. And one thing here that we're again Frodo is kind of talking about, how do we destroy this now? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Right. Help me. And then he's like, what do we do? How do we destroy this? Yeah. And we know a lot about this. Like basically, the ring can change shape and size, weight. Mm-hmm. It makes choices. Yeah, you might want to look up some of this stuff. We can kind of read through some of this. But there's just this, he wants to know, what do we do? And he's ready to kind of take it off and almost destroy it right now. Gandalf, I know you can do it. You're a great wizard. Destroy this ring. And then Gandalf sort of says to him, almost wants him to try to take it off. And Frodo can't. Yeah. He can't even bring himself to really cast it away.
Yeah.
And it was actually sort of a struggle when he had to do that with the fire, when they were first trying to figure out that it was.
He doesn't want to throw it in there. Yeah.
And he's only had it for a short time in comparison to what Bilbo and Gollum had it. So, so he says that they must find basically the Mountain of Doom, the Cracks of Doom, right?
Right.
How do you say that?
Orodruin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Orodruin? Yeah.
Orodruin, yeah. The Fire Mountain, right? So Frodo tries to give Gandalf the ring, and Gandalf cried, no, don't tempt me, for I do not wish to become like the Dark Lord himself, which is, a throwback to where all of their origins come from, and that's a whole nother podcast. But so don't tempt me. I dare not take it. First of all, he says, Yet the way of the ring to my heart is by pity for the weakness and the desire of strength to do good.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really important because we were talking about pity earlier.
Yeah, and Bilbo's intentions as well. Yeah.
Right. When Gandalf he basically sees this darkness coming, and there's this, he does pity, he feels bad in a sense, right, for all the darkness that and what people are going to have to endure.
And he sees his responsibility as a guardian of Middle Earth, right? It's his job to
his own quest, right? He's wondering, what is my true test? What is it that I have to do? Is it resisting this ring, taking this ring? Like, there's all sorts of. He's still trying to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
And how can he help? And it's real interesting how he and Saruman take different paths.
Yeah. Yes.
So, right.
Yeah. Right.
So,
he talks about great peril lying before him. It's just so interesting. Like, they drew the curtains during this conversation.
Right, yeah.
And then Gandalf Gandalf goes and opens it up, and light just starts streaming in. Right. It's just such an interesting, like, juxtaposition.
Yeah.
And Gandalf says, I'll help you bear this burden as long as it's yours to bear, but we must do something soon. The enemy is moving. And he talks about, I think it's later on, but he talks about being idle too long.
Right.
And he says, that's been one of my fears too, is that I didn't, like we said earlier, wasn't quick enough to move. I love this line here. Frodo gazed fixedly at the red embers on the hearth until they filled all his vision, and he seemed to be looking down into profound wells of fire. He was thinking of the fabled cracks of doom and the terror of the fiery mountain. So, and it's interesting, Frodo is accepting the responsibility for this ring, right? And while they go on later to say, like, I'm not sure if this is going to be your task to the very end, or if it'll just be your task for a time, it seems like Frodo,
Saul.
Yeah, he either is peeking into the future and knows that's his destiny, or he's preparing himself for the worst. He's preparing himself for the fact that, okay, if I take this on, this might be what I'm signing up for. Especially with hobbits being unknown, maybe that's how this can happen, and I'm the one who has to do it.
Right.
Man, what a burden.
It's something, right? But here's something interesting too: is how quickly Frodo he agrees to keep the ring with the purpose of protecting it, right? And that's interesting, right? He just Gandalf is surprised by his response.
Yeah,
and he says, "My dear Frodo," exclaimed Gandalf, "hobbits really are amazing creatures, as I have said before." And you mentioned this, like he said, you can learn all that there is to know about their ways in a month, and yet after 100 years, they still can surprise you at a pinch.
Yep.
So he's happy here. He gives him some advice, basically, that the name Baggins won't be safe anymore. So this is where we get sort of when you go as Mr. Underhill, right? So that's how the name he has to travel under. So they've decided that he's going to take this ring, and he's going to he's got to move on. His quest starts. Oh, there's this passion, there's this fire that's lit in him almost as he thinks about Bilbo. Yeah, and it's interesting too because he's talking about his fear. He's overcome with fear. Is what how Tolkien describes it. Right. And Gandalf has some reassurance here. He says, right after what you just read about them being remarkable creatures, he said, Bilbo made no mistake in choosing his heir, though he little thought how important it would prove. Right. Mm-hmm. So again, another decision that Bilbo made that is going to be for the best. And even Gandalf is foreseeing this. Mm-hmm. Right. And then he says, don't go alone if you don't have to. Yeah. Right? He says this is something which I think is so interesting because that's unexpected. It is what I think. Yeah, me too, because it's all about this secrecy and don't tell anyone, keep it secret, keep it safe. And then on the other hand, he says, hey, if you can take someone with you to bear this burden and travel with you, make sure they're the right person, do it. I mean, this book is called The Fellowship of the Ring. Right. Right. And then who his companion almost kind of finds him. Right. And who is it? It's who we talked about 20 hours ago at the beginning of this reread, where we said there's someone in the Shire who is of hardy stock and faithful and the most endearing true character. Oh yeah. In this story. Oh yeah. And he's tripping. He's tripping. God, maybe he is. Maybe he is. He's all the mushrooms. Sure, right. He's trimming the verge under the window. Yeah. He's clipping the grass.
And
did you like that? How they kept hearing?
Yeah.
They kept referencing him.
It's getting closer and closer. Right. We didn't talk about that, but yeah, this whole conversation, there's every once in a while Tolkien will say, talking about Sam cutting the grass, and he's getting closer, and then it would stop for a period of time, then it would pick back up, and so then it stops all the way.
Can you picture that in your head?
Yeah, absolutely. It's hilarious. And it makes more sense during the day, I think. Yeah. In the movies, it's at night, and it's like Sam,
like maybe he had been there throughout the day, and then it had grown.
Or they're coming back from the Green Dragon.
Oh yeah.
And so maybe he hears something, and he's like listening through the window or whatever.
That's right.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, because they actually make it seem like it is the night, because when Sam is on his way back from the Green Dragon, it says at the same time he's walking down that lane is when Gandalf shows up. Yeah. So, but anyways, real quick, just to kind of read this, suddenly he stopped as if listening. Frodo became aware that all was very quiet, inside and outside. Gandalf crept to one side of the window. Then with a dart, he sprang to the sill and thrust a long arm out and downward. There was a squawk, and up came Sam Gamgee, curly head hauled by one ear. And then this is just this is ridiculous. Actually, so he's it's the dialogue is what I think is the funniest, right? Yeah. Well, bless my beard, said Gandalf. Sam Gamgee, is it? Now what may you be doing? Lord bless you, Mr. Gandalf, sir. I mean, like, I could just, I know. I love this.
And Sean Astin did like the perfect job of embodying Sam. Yeah.
He really did. Says him. Nothing, leastways, I was just trimming the grass border under the windows.
If you follow me.
He picked up his shears as if to show the evidence, right? Here you go. This is what I was doing, guys.
Yeah. Like a little kid caught doing something wrong.
Right.
I don't know.
And I'm going to skip down here a little bit. He says, eavesdropping, sir. I don't follow you. Begging your pardon. There ain't no eaves at Bag End, and that's a fact. Just kind of kind of funny. And then we'll skip down here a little bit. I listened because I couldn't help myself, if you know what I mean. Yeah. Lord bless me, sir, but I do love tales of that sort. And believe them too, and we know whatever Ted may say.
That's right, and it's a great tie back to the beginning of this chapter.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
In a lot of ways, it's as much Sam's chapter as it is Frodo's and Gandalf's.
Right.
It really is.
It is actually. Mm-hmm. I would dearly love to see them. Or I'm sorry, he was talking about elves there or whatever. And even though, despite what Ted may say, elves, sir, I would dearly love to see them. Couldn't you take me to see the elves, sir, when you go? And then basically from there, Gandalf's sort of like, here we go. Yeah. I know who's going with you.
Yep.
And so they're
and I've got like the end of the pretty much ends with the fact that Sam's elated. He says Gandalf says you shall go away with Mr. Frodo. Me, sir, cried Sam, springing up like a dog invited for a walk. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that part.
He bursts into tears in a second too.
He does. That's how it ends, and then bursts into tears of joy. And I just think it's so cool. Like, so there's one more allusion to the whole theme of shadow in this chapter, and it's not a negative one. It's not a dark shadow. It's like Sam is gonna be Frodo's shadow. Yeah, he's gonna be by his side through this whole thing.
Well said.
He's already been that for him. He stood up for him when he couldn't be there. He is walking with him through light and dark.
That is actually,
it's just kind of cool. It ends on a note of hope, right? But staying with that whole shadow deal.
That is genius. Actually, that's great.
Tolkien, he knew what he was doing, brother.
Yep.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's chapter 2. Good night.
Isn't that great?
That was a blast.
That was great.
Can we do another one?
Absolutely.
Another chapter.
We actually will. So we got some cool connections real quick. We'll just kind of read through these because we got a lot of the Bywater posts to get to.
We do.
Okay.
So some cool connections that I had. Obviously, there's shadows all over the place. So you see shadows in Mordor. Sauron. The wraiths are shadows of their former selves. Gollum, he even behaves like a shadow. They talk about the way he would attack things and how he would sneak about. He act in the middle, and even they've talked about him robbing cribs. Mm-hmm. Scary, right? But he's in the shadows always. Ignorance or misunderstanding. That's another shadow, right? It's a half-truth. So we see that a lot with the hobbits. They're ignorant to some things. They misunderstand a lot of stuff. And then history itself is kind of a shadow. It was a shadow to us until we were enlightened from Gandalf. And there are even still some parts that we don't know. He said if I would tell you the whole thing, we'd be here forever. Mm-hmm. And then Sam, a positive spin on the idea of a shadow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of scenes at twilight, nightfall, dusk,
Yes.
or during the day, and the shades are drawn.
Right.
So interesting how that parallels.
Lots of shadows.
Lots of shadows, baby.
Right.
Give me some light. I want some sunshine. The irony of this chapter name, shadow, typically a symbol of part knowledge or not understanding something totally. And the irony of this is we're given lots of detailed backstory. And we aren't so in the dark anymore. And ironically, it's scarier than before.
Right. That's well said.
Usually when you know more, you're less afraid, right?
Right.
When you know that monster under your bed is just a pair of shoes or, I don't know, a coat in the closet.
Yep.
You feel a little bit better. We know what the monster is, and we're more scared.
Right.
So,
it does not help.
Right. Right.
In our fear.
Yeah.
So something I had just I thought this was I pulled this quote, and I think actually Lane had referenced it earlier. Gandalf says, "Though even when I was far away, there has never been a day when the Shire has not been guarded by watchful eyes."
Yeah.
I was like, "Dang, man, he is." It just makes you think of the Rangers and different people that wood elves and what have you.
You said about and
that shows I'm not so sure that maybe one of those dwarves wasn't intentionally sent through there to kind of send. We never really know what Frodo says to these different strangers when Merry and Pippin are kind of watching him on that hillside.
Right.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting.
And it shows you too that more than just Gandalf, I guess, is concerned with the well-being of hobbits. Yeah. Maybe there's this greater we know from the films anyway, Aragorn feels that way too. He feels a kinship to the Shire and the hobbits, and that it should be protected. And so it's not just Gandalf. There's throughout all of Middle Earth, there's a concern for hobbits. Yeah. Concerning hobbits.
Yeah. Another cool connection that I had just sort of, and I already mentioned it, is basically the Gamgee to Cotton connection, which again, I have full kudos to. Like, again, I need to learn his name. I can't remember his name. I think it's
John.
No, it's not John. Is it John? It actually might be.
I think it's John Ronald Rule.
No. Gosh.
Tailkin. I think his last name's Tailkin. Professor Tailkin.
The Tolkien Professor. He
Professor Tolkien is what he goes by, right?
Is it? Yeah.
I don't know
either.
That's awesome though.
But just that connection though, and the Gamgee, he was talking about Gamgee tissue and how it was sort of like a British thing, I guess. I don't know. It was just kind of cool to hear how he came up with that name and stuff. So
that's awesome.
Interesting. But do you want to do this? So like the timeline review, do you think we should just sort of, because we've gone so long, and maybe we
can also just point it out that it's in. Yeah, we have gone.
It's in our outline. There are things that
it's in the appendix. Right. It's in our outline. And pretty much, I think what we talked about, we came to the conclusion we just wanted to, because we want to remind ourselves actually, that from chapter 1 to the end of chapter 2, it's 17 years. That's the main point, right? I mean.
Right.
Yeah, a lot of stuff happens in those. I mean, even information about characters we haven't met yet. Arwen,
right?
Like Elrond sending Arwen to, or coming back from Lorien to Imladris. So a lot of stuff goes on.
There's some cool stuff in our outline, and we always post our outline on Patreon.com. So if you guys wanted to check that out, it's there. We even give you the ability to comment and make comments in there if there's things we want to correct and stuff. So just a cool little thing. All right, man, we're finally there. The Bywater Post.
Oh gosh, it snowed under, man,
and it's so great.
And what a good thing! What a good thing.
Yeah. So we're gonna share some just some iTunes reviews, some Facebook comments, personal Tolkien stories, messages we've received, because this is a book club and this is a community, and you guys are a part of that, right? Yeah. Exactly. So
we also should say, wow. What's in that mug? We should also say that we've gotten so many just in this first 2 weeks or whatever it's been that we're not going to share them all this podcast. We're going to break them up.
Right.
So some of us or some of your reviews and stories will be shared on this podcast, and some of them will be for chapter 3 because we don't have enough.
We'll let you know who those are. Like once we're done with this, we'll tell you who's coming up next week.
The hard drive is got to be near to crashing. We're joking around, but this has been awesome. Like we love this. Yeah. And the other thing, as made a great point of last time, is this comes out every 2 weeks. Right. So the longer the better. You have enough to digest it over 2 weeks. We did
design it that way, so it is sort of a 2 hour podcast. So, you know, some people see that and like it's kind of daunting, but it will only come out every fortnight. We'll trickle in some Peekin and the Palantir, Miller SmackDown, stuff like that as we get going. But for now, it's a lot to digest.
So our first review, we got a wonderful 5-star review on our Facebook page from Eddie Wilbanks, and he just said, really looking forward to reading with you guys, and that was awesome. Thank you, Eddie, for sharing those kind words, and we're glad you're reading along with us on this adventure with us, man. Thank you. We also got a cool Instagram post. I was blown away by this from Marianne Bates. I don't know Marianne, but she follows us on Instagram, and she had a picture of a pop figurine Gandalf the Grey, right? And she said, just me and little Gandalf on the road to Athens, listening to the first podcast of Up Talking Tolkien is making the drive so much more enjoyable. Thanks, guys. #LOTR. So thank you, Marianne.
Right.
That was so cool to see. We love those pop figurines. And I didn't even know, we were tagged in this post, and I didn't even know until I looked at it. I'm like, oh my gosh. That is awesome. She's on the road, listening to our podcast and give us a shout out. That meant a lot to us. That was cool. So thank you.
Thank you, Marianne.
And post more pictures. I love seeing that.
Oh my gosh,
post
guys.
Pictures and
feel free to post whatever you want on the Facebook page. Honestly, articles, share stuff.
Tag us on Instagram if you're reading, you're getting ready for the next chapter, or if you're doing something Tolkien related. Let us know about it. Absolutely. We would love to comment and like those pictures. Right.
So I have Rowan. If I jack this up, I'm sorry. Mellar.
It sounds kind of elven, doesn't it?
Does actually. Yeah. So Rowan. Something funny before I read yours, Rowan, is that Lane sent me pictures of these things. So we kind of, because it's hard to, we kind of went through Facebook and kind of organized stuff, right? And I just looked at the top of this and it's 1% battery. Look at that. And I was like, my phone's about to die. I'm like looking to plug it in.
Because I screenshotted it at 1%.
And I was like, my phone cannot be at 1%. There's no way. So anyways, sorry about that little funny side note here. She says, hi guys, I've just listened to your first episode and I'm honestly so excited to go on this reread journey with you. We are excited to have you. Thank you so much, Rowan. I was directed to you through the Swish and Flick page and I'm super excited as I actually love Tolkien even more than Potter. Let's go.
Whoa.
She says, don't tell Swish and Flick though.
Oh.
You know, that might be hard for me to
do they listen to the show?
Yeah, Tiffany does. Yeah.
Oh.
And Megan. Sorry. Maybe I should have.
I think the Wizards should combine forces at some point.
Oh, we will. I think we will. We definitely.
Because I don't know. I mean,
Rowan, listen, if you would like for us to
there's a lot to battle
collab
over
with Swish and Flick, we will.
Hashtag.
All right.
Hashtag collab.
I have to confess, I was casually listening to the episode whilst doing housework, and when you told the story about your mom, I had to stop. Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember this now. Yep. Doing washing and have a bit of a cry.
Didn't we all?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I think we all just kind of connect to the story, and she has a really good memory here with her father, and it's just like, that's what this is about.
What it's all about.
He wrote this story, and then we're all reading it years later, going through different times and different things in our life, right?
Or hobbits reading in the Red Book. That's what, yeah.
So she was, my dad is blessedly still with us, but he lives far away from me, so we don't see each other very often. We both love Tolkien. When I was little, he used to tell me the story from memory before I went to bed.
Holy cow.
Right. Awesome.
That's a super fan.
So man. She said in parts, of course. So by the time the films came out when I was 6, I was so excited and couldn't wait to go. Then when I was old enough, I read the books first as a teenager. And then when I was at university and was suffering with depression. Wow. I used to call my dad every week and talk with him about all aspects of Tolkien, and it really helped me through sort of as an escape. As soon as I realized that you were going to do a reread, I called my dad and taught him how to use podcast, and now we are both doing the reread with you. Sorry for the essay, but wanted to share my Tolkien story.
Thank you for the essay.
Yes, actually, thank you.
That's beautiful.
It is honestly great and felt really good. To read that and to, so hey, Dad.
Yeah.
Can we call him Daddy too?
Rowan and Daddy. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
We're glad they're with us.
That's right.
For sure. Beautiful story too. Beautiful. We got a message from fellow Instagrammer Warhammer.time. His name's Jake. Awesome guy. He just said, "Easy guys, just listening to your podcast, loving it. Well excited for the rest of them. Keep it up." And then he gave us a couple emojis. There's a little mountain there, an elf, and a wizard. And he's doing something really cool. Jake is he has all these sweet I need to show you this.
Yeah.
Little not tin soldiers, but like metal figurines that are like Theoden.
Oh, really?
And is the Witch King, like Lord of the Rings, and then he's hand painting.
Right. Okay.
They're beautiful. So that was really cool to see that. Thank you for that positive message. That means a lot to us, man. So thank you, Jake.
Yeah.
And keep painting. Those are sweet.
Right. Yeah.
Those are awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've got 2 iTunes reviews, which, by the way, if you haven't yet, hop over to iTunes and give us a review there.
A relative and the famous I Eat Tacos.
Wow, dude. I mean,
we need to know about Eddie. We need to.
I honestly don't know. So Eddie, if we're related, it could be actually one of my cousins or something.
This might be an account Ez has.
No, I'm being dead serious.
He might be Ez might be Eddie.
Because I actually think here's no joke. I think my grandpa's name was Thorny, but I think they called him Eddie. Dude, I'm serious.
I know, but we need to tell listeners and our fellow book clubbers that your lineage goes back to Kentucky, right?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it does.
Kentucky.
And then from there back to Scotland. Okay, let's go.
Wow.
So anyways,
some hardy folk.
He says, super excited that this is happening. I'm so fired up to join you both on this podcast journey. So thank you so much, Eddie. Also, the famous I Eat Tacos, a.k.a. Myron, our guy.
I want to meet Myron, man.
Dude, he's such a cool guy.
He seems awesome. Yeah.
Let's see here. Where do I have his stuff at? Okay. He's like, I came here from Rebel Watch, and Mike and Ez are fantastic there. My 2 favorite loves are Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. This is a must subscribe for me. Can't wait to see what you guys do with the podcast.
Well, now one of my loves is Myron.
Right.
That's all I'm saying.
Come on.
Absolutely. I eat tacos too, my friend. Love tacos. I do.
I know you do. Okay. He also said he left us a comment as well, and he said, "Great episode. This is our I think this is our chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to it twice. Great stuff here. You guys sound like my freshman English teacher who was responsible for getting me into Middle Earth. So
and we're both teachers, so that makes sense,
right?
Yep.
Yeah. Here's how I got into it. I was into video games growing up, and I've always loved RPGs and going to distant lands with friends. Party, in those games and growing up with them, leveling up, learning new powers and exploring the land. Well, one day our main English teacher left for some reason and she wasn't coming back. So this new teacher filled the position midway through the first semester. And he said we were all going to read a little book called The Hobbit. Yeah. Right. So
sounds like that might've been an angel.
Yeah, it might have been.
Or an elf passing through.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
And so let me drop some of this on you guys here.
Good night.
So like he gave us all our own copies to read and we had to return them when we were done. Let's see.
Wow, that's amazing.
He goes, but man, that was it. I was immersed in the world, and we would have class discussions on what happened in the book, the composition of the book, and of course about the author.
Yeah.
Right. The thing I remember the most is that one day the English teacher busted out a bunch of art supplies, and we were all like, "What the heck?" Was in this English class. This is great. I love the way he writes.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
But turns out that that day he was going to have them draw maps. Mm-hmm. So just like Tolkien did, mm-hmm. and anything we wanted. So we had to name our world, name the various provinces.
Awesome.
Right. Yeah.
That is awesome.
It is really cool. Draw any natural things like forest or mountains or lakes or rivers.
Yeah.
And he really loved
cartography, baby.
Right. That following summer, I read The Lord of the Rings, and after that, I looked for the Silmarillion. But to this day, he's my favorite teacher growing up, and he had such a positive influence on me. These are divided up. What do you say there? And I can't thank him enough for introducing me to this. I guess hearing you guys dissect this book kind of reminds me of when my teacher would discuss this with me and makes me feel pretty good. Anyway, sorry for the long post. I just wanted to put this out there, and I'm here for the long haul. Can't wait to see where this podcast goes.
Awesome.
Wow. Love it, Myron.
Dude, and all this stuff, all these messages you guys send our way and comments you leave, it just amps us like we need any help being amped up, right?
Yeah,
we're psycho.
geez.
We just love this. but it only gives us that much more motivation, positivity, like good. There's so much
good vibes.
Yes.
Yep.
And there's so many, I don't know. It's easy, like you've talked about, it's easy to be critical. It's easy to be a cynic. And so when positivity is shared, it's that much more empowering. So we really appreciate it. I got a message from Emma Rose Kolk. Emma Rose said, just started listening, and I'm very excited for the reread. Lord of the Rings has had an enormous influence on my life and has pretty much entirely changed. Influence on me and has pretty much entirely changed my life. It introduced me to the world of fantasy films and books, and I even chose my university based on the chance to study Old English, aka Rohirric. Wow. I had my first tattoo a couple of months ago and chose a tree of Gondor and the Elvish word Illume underneath. Translates as always, a nod to my second love of Harry Potter. She should be listening to Swish and Flick too if she's not already.
Be, actually, yeah.
Okay. Did I say Swish and Flick? What did I say?
You should say Smuggles, but it's cool.
Mama. Anyway, I'm really looking forward to the other episodes as I've not read the books since the movies came out when I was in my early teens.
Yeah.
So she's kind of on the same journey we are.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty fantastic.
It's awesome.
Interesting to learn about studying Old English. Maybe she can help us pronounce some of these words.
Oh my God.
Send
please.
us some pronunciations.
Yeah.
Really cool to learn about that. And the tattoo is awesome. That's a great tattoo.
So I have Nicole Whitaker.
Yeah, and she's going to be our last one for this podcast, right?
Right.
Yeah.
For right now, yep.
Which is a shame. I wish keep going on. I mean, it's already 4 hours long, this podcast.
I know. Why not keep going? Listening now and so excited to follow along and read with you guys. Let's do this. Thanks for doing this. Send us a picture of her book.
Fantastic.
And she's ready to go. So, fantastic. I mean, we are snowed under. So, like next week, we have coming up Mary Holcomb, Jessica Baziak, yep. Jake
Hodgson.
Thanks. Daniel
Couts.
That's your buddy, right?
Yeah.
This is perfect. This is working out perfect.
Mrs.
Mom.
Mrs.
Smith.
My mom.
Denise.
And then Valerie Hillman.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
Looking forward to those.
Okay, as we're almost done here, we cannot end without some strawberries and cream. What do you think, dude?
Dude, I love
strawberries with cream.
You know I love a little cream. You
got to get that cream,
I like some
boy.
Cream.
You got to get that cream. So we kind of have a theme for this one, or I guess a prompt, really. Mm-hmm. So we need to pick our favorite baddie that should get his or her own spinoff. So who would you give a spinoff film or series to that's centered around one of the dark powers of Middle-earth?
Yeah, and this for me was easy. Saruman.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The wise, right? The white.
Of the many colors. The broken light.
The many colors. So what was he like in older days? More importantly, what was he up to? His dealings with maybe the blue wizards and so on. Was there some mischief there?
Right. What was their relationship like?
Right. Was he as worried about them as he's worried about Gandalf the Grey and meddling and things like that? You know, so
maybe just even. I mean, who does he vent to after a hard day on a wizard council? Like
Wormtongue.
Probably. He's probably calling him on the Palantir, going, "Yo, Wormy, give me some love, man. Tell me I'm doing the right thing." Maybe not.
No.
Saruman. Yeah. For me, I've got a couple. Okay, I'd like to see the Mouth of Sauron. Mm-hmm. Mouth of Sauron's an awesome character that's only in the extended edition in the films. I'd love to see a little more there. But also Lurtz. I know his life was only about 2 weeks long, but where did the Uruk-hai come from? They were crossbred, right? Treebeard speculates that Saruman crossbred orcs with men. Maybe Lurtz was a crossbreed of a ent and a woman. I mean, I don't know. He's pretty tall. He's got some pretty crazy, like crackled skin. This really presents the real question to me. That they're orc men. Who are Lurtz's parents? And is Lurtz a family name? I don't know.
Right.
I just think there's a lot of spinoff. A lot of spinoff potential. Sure. I do also want to bring up, I think it'd be really cool if we could, because I think there's a love story of, we have Gimladriel, the love story of Gimli and Galadriel.
Yeah, right.
I really think like especially if you've seen, I'm talking only movies here. If you've seen The Hobbit, there's some tension in some of those white council scenes,
right?
Between Our Lady Galadriel and one Gandalf the Grey, and I just think, I don't know, is there a market for 50 Shades of Gandalf the Grey?
Right.
I don't know, dude. It
seems like there's something there.
It'd be wicked. So I think there's an audience for it.
It would be wicked. That's for sure.
You got the staff. You got the pointy hat. You could have a lot of fun with those things. So I don't know.
Oh God,
that's all I'm thinking.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Okay. That is great. So
that's enough. I'm full from cream.
Me too. I am. People are they're saying we're full of it.
Is anyone still listening right now?
Right.
They gotta be. Come on.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I hope so. This is where we share the load.
Yep.
All right. So this is just our quick, just to let you know, we've got the regular podcast that runs, but we also have a Patreon series podcast that's out there in case you guys would like that or you're interested in it. It's called There and Back Again. We've done chapter 1, the Green Hill Country, and next month we'll have chapter 2, Into the Wild. Will be up in February. So we also post our outlines there. There's opportunity to get more access, like I said, for the chapter recaps and the chapter summaries. If you want to write those and submit those, you got it. That's an option there on Patreon as well. So let's see what else here. Also, we just figured this out.
Yeah. We have a way to make prints for those illustrations.
That's right.
And there'll be more coming. I think Ezra had a great idea. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do illustrations inspired by each chapter. Yeah. Find a way to incorporate that. And then, so if you choose to support us that way through Patreon, that's amazing. We want to give you something in return for that. So we'll be doing a monthly illustration print that'll go out to you. And then also there's some possibility of some pop sockets with our logo on there.
Yeah.
Should I have not brought that up?
No, this is good. So actually, at this time, it'd be kind of cool if you haven't reviewed us on iTunes, we'll put a picture up on Facebook. We got a couple pop sockets just with our logo on there, and pop sockets are cool. I didn't know how cool they were until this Christmas.
Love pop sockets.
Like one of my students was like, they always give me Starbucks gift cards, and I'm like, guys, I mean, it was fine. I'm always cool with that.
No complaints.
But I had someone who was just like, I had always talked about pop sockets. I'm like, what is that? Where do you get one of those? And they're like telling me these stores like Five Below. I'm like, what's that? Like,
that's your favorite store, isn't it?
I'd never been there.
Nothing's cooler than Five Below.
So they were like, this one of my students got me a pop socket, and it was one of the coolest things. I was like, this is awesome. I haven't lived without a pop socket. No. So if you would like one,
it can help you get that phone even closer to your face,
which is good
for you.
That's good for me because what did you call me when we started the podcast with the glare?
Laser eyes or something? You look like Cyclops, kind of.
What did you call me with it? You said
X-Men? It wasn't as good as that.
Ezra the
Glary?
Maybe. Oh my God.
Okay. That's all Mike though. Mike has brought that up from Rebel Watch.
Well,
I got to give him that.
The glare on the glasses is awful right now. But anyways, what we're doing with these pop sockets, it's a giveaway. And so for like our first 10 reviews on iTunes, we are going to put you guys in like a random generator, and we'll put all your names in there, your usernames, and then we will randomly select someone, and then on our Facebook page, maybe we'll even record that, just so people we'll do it live. Yep. People can see us generate the name, and that person wins a pop socket if they would like, and then they can shoot us their address, private messages that, and then we'll ship it out to you. So. And then for the next 10, from 11 to 20, we'll do the same thing and so on. Yeah. So I think we have 4 or 5 of them right now. So then we'll send those out, and that should be cool. It's just a little giveaway. It's reviews on iTunes help a podcast, just so you guys know. I mean, it's something that does kind of help us and gets us out there more. And it's also a way for you to give us feedback too about the show, or the things you'd like to see, things that you want us to do, the parts that you like to, we highlight more. So that's the other thing. That's
why we spent 4 hours on a reread today, right? Exactly. Part of the reason, because we felt comfortable that you guys want,
and you like that feel of it. You like the book club feel. Yeah. And we are going to, after this, the thread will go up on Facebook. You guys can talk about what you heard in the chapter. And if there's things that we missed, things that we should cover, that's going to go in the recap. And we're going to talk about that. And then it's like each podcast will get longer and longer. It's going to be great.
It's going to be awesome.
So it's going to be awesome.
I did want to say a real quick thank you. obviously, I want to thank everyone who listens to the show, everyone who's reading along with us. You're our fellow show members in our minds. And then everyone else who went out of their way and took a little extra time to contact us and let us know how they felt about the show and make connections to the story in their own life. Beautiful. Thank you very much for that too. And then also I want to say thank you to the other podcasts that Ezra is involved with that have been giving us shout outs, promoting the show, promoting the book club. So as in Mike on Rebel Watch, if you want a Star Wars podcast to listen to, go listen to that. It's the best. I listen to it obsessively. I love it. Done a great job of supporting us. Matt and Ezra on Second Breakfast, another awesome podcast I love. You got to check out their food reviews. They're amazing.
Oh God!
It feels like I'm sitting at a table with my old friends. It's incredible. Yeah. So they do a great job. Thank you, Matt and Ezra. Oh, I guess you're right here.
You're welcome.
Is that a signal?
Whoa! No, that wasn't a signal. No, I was just itching my finger.
On my finger.
I'm just itching my finger.
I wonder why it's itchy. Invisible ring on it.
Missing the ring. Yeah.
I can't see you. Also want to thank Tiffany and Matt at Box Trick. They do kind of like a retro video gaming podcast, and that's
a great podcast.
Yes, it is. I know nothing about retro gaming. I love listening to it.
Right.
So
they tell their stories about games. Yeah. And it's real, like a lot of nostalgia, and it's really neat.
Yeah.
To kind of experience.
It's awesome. And so they've been really kind. Last 2 or 3 episodes, they've given us a shout out to in promoting our show, which is cool in our club. And then the ladies over at Swish and Flick. I think we need to do some kind of hashtag collab maybe.
Yep.
And it's cool to be doing the same kind of thing that they are, just in a different universe. So thank you guys. And I think this whole group that you guys have brought together, the super group, the Avengers, the Justice League, the Great Lakes.
Hold on. Pod Patrol.
The Great Lakes Pod Patrol.
We've jokingly started to call it that.
Is like Paw Patrol. Is a beautiful thing. It's cool when people work together.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are doing podcasts right now, and it would be easy to, it'd be way easier to rip other people down that are doing similar or different things, and instead it's cool to see a bunch of people welcoming us and building us up. And so hats off to them, and deepest thank yous to them, and it gives you hope for humanity. It's really cool. So thank you guys. Thank you to everyone reading along with us. I've never been
overwhelmed.
We're overwhelmed. We're like we feel very lucky to be able to do this with you guys.
Yeah.
So
we really are. And so I need to say thank you as well, because whether you've commented or not or what have you, you don't have to do that at all. You don't have to do anything. If you're just listening and you enjoy it, that's fine. It's what it's for. You know what I mean? So thanks for listening wherever you're at. All right.
And I got to thank you too, Ezra.
Wow.
I'd be remiss to not thank you. I love you, man. And this is awesome.
Dude, I love you too, bro.
We shouldn't have said that on air, but
it's cool.
And I also want to thank my beautiful wife, my beautiful daughter, and my beautiful dog.
That's right.
They're just unbelievable.
Me too. All right. Yeah. Well, hey, real quick before we let you guys go, hit us up on, if you have time, Facebook at Up Talking Tolkien.
We're also putting polls on there too.
That's right.
That go along with the show. So check those out.
Was great.
Vote. We should read that next time. We'll read the results next time.
All the results of the poll?
Yes, of the poll.
Okay, cool.
It's kind of cool. It's interesting. Yeah.
It is cool. So that's on Facebook. We do a lot. That's where we converse with our book club. So that's where the book club is housed, is an unexpected podcast. Or you can search us there at Up Talking Tolkien. And then Patreon is Up Talking Tolkien as well. And so is our Instagram, Up Talking Tolkien.
Yep.
So, all right, buddy. I think we're ready for our fortnight farewell.
Let's do it, my friend. We want to thank you for stepping off the road with us. Our next episode, we'll be digging into Chapter 3, which is aptly named 3 is Company.
That's great.
I don't know if we'll be seeing Suzanne Summers. Probably not.
Probably not. Maybe.
Goldberry, maybe.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. If you like our podcast, don't forget to subscribe, like us, write a review, or leave a comment, or send us a Shadowfax.
We'll see you in a fortnight, and remember, Frodo lives.